Yes, we have begun the dark ritual.
And the ritual is complete because we are officially live again.
Again. We decided to save Adam's brain cells this time. I'm Techpriest.
Yeah, I'm Adam, and fun fact, we actually discovered this about an hour ago. Turns out the horrible book that made everyone into paste-eating morons, you can thank WizKids for that. That book we read last week that made me scream multiple times was their fault.
Admittedly, Catalyst still wrote it, but it was a
It
WizKids
was under
licensed product.
WizKids, so you can blame them.
You can blame WizKids for a lot of problems with Battletech.
So
Actually,
well, yes, I
basically all
still
of
think
them.
clanners are the dumbest people in the setting, and I still think they're really dumb. They might have enough brain cells. There's still hope left in man in that setting.
Yeah.
I just wanted to
Well,
correct that since we didn't know, and it's interesting. Anyway, let me close this Cadillac and Dinosaurs core book because we're going to look at something else that's interesting.
yeah, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs is also very interesting, obviously, but
It's
we're talking
surprising. Like,
we're
it's
talking on
really
another one.
surprising. But instead, we're talking about the greatest anime crossover of all time.
The most ambitious crossover event since Infinity War.
Three Kingdoms of Darkness, which is Romance of the Three Kingdoms Changeling and
And
Geist.
Geist,
And if you're wondering
which
why Geist works so fucking well, yeah, over the course of the Three Kingdoms, you can thank the Jin because they were pretty good documenters of the damage that period did to China. See, China
yeah,
at the fall of the Han, they estimated had about 56 million people spread over a certain amount of households because that's how Chinese imperial measurements were usually done.
yeah. Basically, you go to a village and count the houses.
The Jin's first census after unifying China, after outmaneuvering Cao Cao's grandkid. Yeah, it was down to 16 million.
Yeah,
That's 40 million corpses that molder in China's soil.
the population reduction of this era of in China is like imperial, like the collapse of imperial Rome, which happens about 2 centuries after this, doesn't kill nearly as many people, even proportionally.
The fall of
It's so
Rome was less damaging to Europe than the Three Kingdoms to China.
it
In
is
fact,
on
actually,
another scale.
there's only one rebellion that beats them. And it's not
And
the
that
16
one,
Kingdoms, it's An Lushan.
yeah. I mean, you could also argue the Heavenly Kingdom Rebellion,
Taiping
but
Tianguo actually had less deaths overall.
yeah, less deaths as a percentage, I think,
The
too.
Taiping Revolt was 20 million dead, which admittedly is horrifying because that's more than World War One. It
It
took
is
World War
more
Two
than
to
World
beat
War
it,
One. Yeah.
but that's
Uh,
still half of the Three Kingdoms period.
Mind you, the Three Kingdoms period happened
A
over a period of
longer period
a
of time.
long time, like about 100 years.
About 100 years,
So
but that's 40 million divided by 100. That's 400,000 dead a year. That's pretty fucking impressive.
yeah, close to 500,000 dead a year. That's not bad. Like,
That's not bad.
I mean, it's China. Come on, like you're gonna make it out of there.
I mean, a single battle could have like 20 to 30,000 civilians getting eaten alive, and that would just be considered a minor victory.
Decisive Tang strategic victory.
That's the Battle of Suyang that actually happened. Cannibalism actually fucking happened. And then they lost all their generals in the process, but it's still a strategic victory.
Yeah, there's a lot of that actually. There's even cannibalism directly referenced in Romance of the Three Kingdoms.
So anyway, the empire long
Um,
divided must unite, long united must divide. Thus it has ever been. Luo Guanzhong, Romance of the Three Kingdoms, aka the
which
greatest piece of Ming propaganda known to man.
it's the greatest fan fiction of all time. Unironically, it is the most influential work of historical fiction ever written.
Yep.
The
To give you an idea, Divine Comedy has nothing on this shit.
like Divine Comedy, like aside from the Inferno, nobody gives a shit. Really, like the references are basically
No
lost.
one remembers Purgatorio, or I forget the heaven one. I don't even
Paradiso.
remember. Paradiso.
And Paradiso is some trippy fucking shit, man. But this is, but like a lot of Inferno is Purgatorio, and Paradiso is basically analogies and esoteric Christianity and all this other
And also,
shit.
fuck this guy who I'm rivaling with in Italy.
Fuck these guys who I am politically opposed to.
That happens a lot, like especially in Inferno. But in
Inferno's full of it.
Purgatorio and Paradiso, he'll also like list his friends or those he thinks were faulty.
Yeah.
So anyway, the Han Dynasty shudders under the weight of its own corruption, even as its emperor looks inward, riveted by the ecstasies in the flesh. Its officials continue to strip
Yes.
the country of fortunes, imposing heavy taxes and impossible demands. But the mandate of heaven never remains long on the shoulders of the unworthy.
Was this the one that had the swimming pool of wine?
It was one of them.
I think it was one of them.
Might not have been the one that got over. That one that got over.
I don't think it was. I think it was an earlier one that did that. Chinese
man.
emperors are amazing.
Yeah. No man may rule China without divine benediction, and no ruler may hold that blessing if he is not sufficiently just. You can thank Kong Fuji for this idea.
Yeah.
In the eyes of many, Emperor Ling, who would rather drown in the company of his concubines than attend to the needs of his land, have long lost the privilege of sovereignty. But who will succeed him? The answer would take more than a century of war to unearth.
And oh boy, is it a century of war.
Yeah, it's not like the 100 Years' War. No. God, no.
There is constant conflict. Starting with the Yellow Turban rebellions,
which ends basically the last chance that the Han had.
Yeah, like the Yellow Turban rebellions were a case of if they had successfully managed to quell them and actually institute reforms based on that, they might have survived another century.
That's been a little generous. It depends on how the emperors go.
Yeah, but like they might be able to. Usually,
because,
that's a shot in the
you're
arm.
right, because 5 barbarians come at around a century later.
Yeah, they wouldn't. I don't think they would have survived that.
I mean, the Jin dynasty didn't survive the 5 barbarians.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of did, but it lost all the north.
Yeah, and then it became the Song, right?
Nope.
Or was that later?
It was first West Jin, then East Jin, which ruled the south. They actually had their capital in Nanjing. Then it was the Song.
Okay.
After the 16 Kingdoms period.
Of course, because 3 kingdoms is just, blasé.
Rookie numbers.
Rookie numbers. We can pump those numbers up. You are like little baby. Look at this.
So how many civil? That'd be the Yan Lushan rebellion.
So how many levels of civil war are you on?
How many levels of war are you on? I don't know, man. Like 3 or 4. You were like small fetus. Check this out. Decisive Tang victory. 20 to 30,000 civilians eaten alive. That actually happened.
Yeah, I mean. I know that we're joking about the horrific deaths of hundreds of thousands of people, but they're Chinese. They don't count.
Well, it kind of is impressive because the Yan Lushan rebellion single-handedly tanked like 80% of the human population, I think. Something like that.
Like I think it killed like a quarter of the world's population.
It was like a fifth, and like 2/3 of China were dead by the end of it.
Yeah. Chinese civil wars, man.
So the themes of this book are the Mandate of Heaven, obviously.
Mandate of Heaven, which is obviously basically
for those who don't know, in Chinese imperial doctrine, basically mainly due to the effects of philosophers like Confucius or Confucius, as you know him.
Also the Luzi or who's
Lao
the guy
who designed the Tao or Tao.
The Tao, and in general, like
and the other 101 schools of thought and folklore tradition.
Yeah.
Basically, you're obligated as an emperor to look out for your subjects, and vice versa. The subjects are supposed to listen to you.
Yes.
And you are divinely ordained by both ancestors and the great emperors that came before you to hold on.
The ancestors, the gods,
stuff like the actual famous emperor, like the pre-ancient emperors that may or may not.
Yeah, like the Yellow Emperor who may have flown around with laser beams coming out of his eyes. Shit, like we don't fucking know.
You are obligated to rule justly, wisely, or at least not incompetently. Just not incompetently.
Basically, like please, just don't fuck shit up, and it's okay.
A bad emperor may not necessarily kill a dynasty, but more than one will.
More than one in a row can, and usually does.
Yep.
There's a few that did survive a couple terrible emperors, but that was when their wives stepped in and then like ran shit like a fucking iron fist.
And that usually doesn't work well in China. They
don't like that.
To this day, they very much hate women in charge.
They really do, which is funny because you
Like, to
can
give you
argue
an
that
idea, a common work thing is that Chinese men will actually make jokes about how horrible their wives are to each other. That's an actual thing they do.
I know they're just boomers. It's just a society of boomers. It explains everything.
But yeah, basically, a single bad emperor might and doesn't always kill a dynasty, but it can.
It can. There's cases where it does, but usually a single one is survived because the bureaucracy is just good
Competent
enough.
enough to make up for their stupidity. But that's the problem. This man has all this power because, it's expected that everyone listens to him.
Yeah. And
And
then
that
here he is
allows
off
him to
like
replace
swimming
those
in
that
his
he doesn't like the guy who complains, "You're using up all the wine for your swimming pool parties with prostitutes." Or
Yeah.
or stop killing sparrows for fun. We need them to kill the locusts.
More accurately, you need to stop killing all the elephants because your chopsticks get dirty. This actually happened.
Yeah.
Um so continuing on, like
Basically, after you kill enough of your competent bureaucrats and put your friends in charge, then everything fucks up, and that's usually
and it also gets into the case of like
natural
then we get
disasters
into
can play an effect. Like, you can have a perfectly fine dynasty, but like, let's say the
the
Yellow
second
River
the Yellow River
floods,
floods, everyone's suddenly like, well, Mandate of
massively
Heaven's
floods,
over. And you could have been the most competent emperor with a widely happy populace, and all of a sudden the knives come out because of fucking river floods.
because that's the
Like,
gods openly saying, "No, you don't deserve this."
you don't deserve this. You better atone, motherfucker, or bad things will happen soon.
So that's Mandate of Heaven in a nutshell. It's very important for the setting because at this period in time, the Han very clearly lost it. They have gone the same. They have fell for the same traps as Shi Huangdi, only not as
Yeah,
stupidly.
yeah. They've basically at this
They're
point
just assholes with fancy robes that should get stabbed.
sort of. There's a lot more complexity in that. The other theme here is heroes in the war, which
Because
is
that's
very
Romance of the
fitting for
Three
this
Kingdoms
time.
in a nutshell.
The Romance of the Three Kingdoms is basically the bromance of the Three Kingdoms.
There's like
And
there's millions. There's millions of dudes with insane abilities and talents and skills that appear.
it is. There's like I'm a guy that can punch a boulder. And it's like he actually then fucking punches a boulder. I'm like, holy shit, this is actually like,
I'm a
this is
guy.
just an
I'm a
anime.
guy who literally wrestles a boar to death and rips it apart with my bare hands.
I'm a dude that ate my own eye when an arrow got into it.
Yeah,
This
that
is an
happened.
actual dude. That actually historically happened. That was not made up for this. He's actually one of Cao Cao's main military commanders. And I will
that's
pronounce it
another
Cao
thing.
Cao 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 and like any way you want it. Like there's no real
Sao
concrete
Sao, Cow
pronunciation.
Cow, Soy, whatever. It's fine.
Yeah, whatever. It's fine. You know who I'm talking about.
Basically, super awesome wuxia nonsense happens all the time in Romance of the Three Kingdom, and that's a thing here.
Like, yes, there's. Oh yeah, I remember. There's also like an immortal that just specifically trolls one of the leaders of these countries to death. He's just like, yeah, you're a bitch. I'm just gonna fuck with you, and
The
gets him
man who
killed.
was cooked to death.
Well, admittedly, he'd put the guy to death for being an asshole, and then he came back to life and kept being an asshole to him.
That's a sin eater.
That's a sin eater concept right there.
Yep, and theme. I would rather betray the world.
Betray the world than have the world betray me, as famously said by Cao Cao. He's the
as
villain.
famously said by the angry, the eternally rage-filled Ming, who hates Cao Cao for stuff his grandkids and son did.
It's also because like Cao Cao was literally the best chance the Han had to survive. Because he was a genuinely cunning,
descent
clever.
from the Han.
Yeah, he was a genuinely cunning, clever warlord that, if he did not lose one battle, would have unified China.
Yeah.
There's basically no debate that if he had not won Red Cliffs, he probably would have killed at least one of the other successor kingdoms and then reunified China later.
Which is a bit of a shame.
I mean, his successor still did eventually reunify China.
Well,
but,
not under the family, though.
But not under the family. Just sort of how it is. But yeah, like
but paranoia and betrayal, that's a big theme. For
paranoia,
fuck's sake,
betrayal.
One of the most famous characters that you know in memes, Lu Bu, was notorious for betraying everyone.
So some of the people Lu Bu betrayed. Lu Bu betrayed his original foster father,
Mm-hmm.
betrayed his second foster father,
Yep.
betrayed the guy that hired him, betrayed Cao Cao, betrayed the guy that his rebound warlord after Cao Cao, then tried to go back to Cao Cao, and Cao Cao just thought about it for a second and just fucking killed him. like Cao Cao basically went like, he's a fantastic warrior, but I can't fucking trust this man, so I'm just gonna kill him.
This man betrayed his family twice. No.
Twice.
So that's I would rather betray the world in a nutshell.
Yeah. Basically.
Also, yeah, the Three Kingdoms drained most lands of resources because remember, by the end of it, 3 out of 4 Chinese families were destroyed.
Yes, the amount of family lines that were ended during this insane. Partially because of just the amount of people that were conscripted into the military.
Partially because of the horrible famines.
And then because of those conscriptions caused then more famines, which caused more fighting, which caused more conscriptions, which caused more famines.
Yep.
Such as the cycle of the Chinese war, Civil War. This cycle will basically it's like the
they literally say if given the choice between self and you, they'll choose self every time.
Yeah.
So that'll lead to those amazing heroes just killing entire villages just to save themselves.
Cao Cao does this because he thinks that they're about to kill him. They're actually trying to kill a pig because they're like, we got the knives out, we got the rope ready, and they're about to butcher a pig, and he thinks that they're about to like jump out and assassinate him. So he slaughters an entire family, finds out about this, then sets the house on fire and runs away.
Because of course he does. And the mood is war on an epic scale because when you're dealing with Chinese civil wars, the scale is ludicrous.
It is.
I mean, just to give you guys a more modern understanding, since I know warlord period China a little more, China, right at the dawn of the Second Sino-Japanese War, had about, I don't know, like 10 to 12 million people under arms.
Yeah, the amount of people that were
aimed at each other, but for the most part, but still.
Was about 12 million people fighting. To give you perspective, the U.S. Army never reached that number in World War II.
The Soviets just barely got to a million.
The Soviets never reached that number. The Germans never reached that number.
Yeah.
You could put any two of the other powers in the war together, and it wouldn't add up. Like, the amount of people.
This is including the warlords aiming at each other too. You got to keep that in
mind. This is, but the amount of people that were fighting in China overall was more than basically the rest of the world. It was crazy, man.
Yeah, and it's not much different in ancient times.
It really isn't. The only difference is the scale, basically.
Like, you know how those historians tried to overvalue Alexander's troop numbers? No, that could probably happen on some of the biggest battles in China. Like 1 million men? Possible. Rare as hell, but possible.
That's the thing. Like, we can throw out basically all like medieval and ancient battle numbers. Like, Tours is probably like a couple thousand dudes fighting each other. Like not the
in China,
crazy,
it's
ridiculous.
Like tens of thousands, usually hundreds of thousands.
China is like, yeah, we've got an army of 100,000 that ran into another army of about 100,000, and historians look at that and they think that's actually plausible. That actually probably happened because the population density of China during this time period was basically unmatched by anywhere else in the world. I mean, theoretically, you could say that like the Near East was close to the amount of population density, but it didn't have the numbers.
Yeah.
I guess would be the way to put it. Because China's big. China's very, very big. Like
to give you an idea, China is larger than Europe by far, and it's a unified cultural area.
Well, mostly unified cultural area. There's
mostly, but
we're speaking in generalizations here.
Yeah. That's just to give you an idea of the scale. It'd be like it'd be the equivalent of most of the European Union being one state and one culture and one mind. That's the scale.
Only like 4 or 5 different languages with a bunch of dialects.
Yeah.
Like, and all those languages are relatively mutually intelligible too. Like, Cantonese can be understood by a Mandarin speaker. Like, it's not easy, but they can still kind of understand it. But like, we're talking amount of connectedness in like that basically nowhere else in the world has or will probably ever have, unless like we get like a United States of Africa style thing in like the middle of Africa.
That's not happening, and you know.
Which ain't happening because that's already so culturally diverse. It's insane.
Not only
The
that, but
Congo,
tribes as a whole, they operate
yeah,
on tribes. They don't know.
like I'm trying to give an idea, like the East African Union style of thing. Like that's about the closest.
If the Pan-African movement managed to unify Central and East Africa or something.
Yeah, like that's what we're talking about. Like the level of like density of population, sort of a decent amount of the scale, and like the amount of like people kind of.
And imagine that they actually would willingly fight for a state like that.
Yeah.
Because China, yes, they go through massive long periods of civil war, but that's not normal in their mindset.
No, the normal thing is the unification.
It's not like India, which was...
India's a Thunderdome, basically.
India was the Thunderdome that very rarely would unify.
And usually it was an outside force that came in and unified, then broke apart because everybody started fighting them. And each other still. Like the estimations are that roughly 1 in 10 people in the 1600s in India at some point had military service as a mercenary.
Yeah.
It was a very, very crazy period of Thunderdome.
Demise of an era, history and legend.
Right.
It's basically the collapse of the Han. It talks about the setup for them. It talks about the 3 states, which was Wei, Shu, and then Wu.
Wu, Shu, and Wei, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember it because Wu Shu, because, you know.
And it's stitched together from a bunch of accounts. Basically, Ming wrote a massive fan fiction to justify their rule. Yeah,
basically, Luo Guanzong, I probably am pronouncing that wrong. Basically, he decided he was commissioned to write about the history of the dynasty, essentially.
Because this is when the Ming just kicked the Mongolians out of China.
Yeah, they just killed the Yuan dynasty. They're kind of trying to justify why they should be in charge.
Why they, in particular, should be in charge.
Yeah,
I think there were pretenders from other families, too.
There were quite a few. There were the Northern Jin. There were people from the Song. You know, like there were still those guys around, sort of.
And while the Ming did kick the Yuan out of China, the Mongolians, and they did it impressively with the largest naval battle on a lake ever. Lake Poyang.
Yeah.
But compared to some options, they didn't have the legacy. Like, they had the power, they had the know-how, and honestly, at this point, they had the mandate because they kicked the Yuan out of China.
They won. They've got the mandate.
But they wanted to make damn sure that everyone knew, yeah, we're the guys.
Yeah, they wanted to basically say that we're the new Han. We're the new Han dynasty. And what better way than to have a way to connect yourself directly to the Han through some creative genealogical interpretations.
See, there's lies, damn lies, filthy, dirty lies, fuck you lies, and statistics. And this is statistics.
Now, so you've got to remember that China is one of those cultures that records fucking everything, sort of like the Sumerians, where it's like autistically anal about record keeping. Like, we have this many sheep.
And the Jin were actually really good at it too.
The Jin were also very good at it. The Manchurians, whenever the Manchu took over northern China, which they did again and again and again, not always as the Manchu, but yeah.
They were called the Jin, I think, yeah.
The Jin, I mean, there's like the Jin, the Zhou.
Yan, I think,
there's like
too.
The Yan, yeah. I mean, the Yuan as well. The Mongolians basically said, "You guys are keeping records. Keep those records. Keep doing it. Keep just do it. Write it down, or we'll trample you to death under our horses." Basically, so he had an absolute fuck ton of records that he could read from almost 1,000 years ago. Which, to put in perspective, we can't read English from 1,000 years ago. It's basically unintelligible.
Yeah, it's more like German, if anything else.
It's really weird. It's really wonky, and God forgive trying to understand this shit.
Also, keep in mind that 1,000 years. Let's say this is the 1400s. Yeah. A lot of the libraries and documentation were destroyed when Rome collapsed.
Yeah.
Not all of it, but enough of it.
Yeah, but most of the records from these eras had survived in China. They just kept them.
Yeah.
They kept them and they copied them.
Because each time they split apart, they wouldn't destroy their heritage and culture because, hey, they need to give reasons for why they should be emperor.
We need to prove why we're the ones with the mandate of heaven. So therefore, we'll sponsor a bunch of poets to write things about how we're the
And
best.
even losers, they'll keep the records for you, even if they denigrate them and call them foolish. They'll keep the records.
Because they'll keep the records because it's proof that they were foolish and awful. Like,
and sometimes those poems are useful.
Yes.
Or like popular in that area, and you want to keep them.
Yeah, you want to keep them because it's like, oh, this is some pretty poetry about flowers and the decapitation of my enemies. I want to keep this around, like, you know.
Yeah.
Or it's literally like, you're all bastards. That one general that wrote like a poem that's basically go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
It's an absolute wonder of Chinese literature. There's another poem that's really famous, which is just one character repeated basically infinitely, or one word, and it's an actual intelligible poem. And the guy wrote it just to prove a point that Chinese is a messy language. Absolute mad lad. I can't remember the name of it.
Anyway,
but I know
the
that
story
it
began when the Han exploded, basically.
Right. So the Han Dynasty is kind of in a weird situation
because
where
they've had a string of terrible emperors.
They've had like 3 sort of mediocre emperors in a row.
Mediocre to bad.
Mediocre to bad. Now, during this time, the eunuchs start getting more power in the palace because they're a bureaucracy that he doesn't have to worry about trying to marry off their daughters to him to gain political power with sons and uncles and all this other stuff.
And he can't get cucked.
And he can't get cucked. Also, because the emperors at this point had a habit of dying young.
Because they would die. They would die at like 28, covered in what may have been drugs, nestled in the tits of a hooker and covered in wine.
Or because they decided to take that immortality potion, and that just is pure mercury, and it fucking kills them.
Let me take the elixir of life from you, Taoist monk, and the Taoist monk is like giggling like a maniac because mercury poisoning.
Because mercury poisoning, yes, I speak to the divine spirits, of course. I talk to them right now.
Chugs it and then just flops over dead instantly.
Flops over dead, or like, oh no, I'm having a stroke and dies. Like that's kind of what was happening to these guys. They were dying in their 30s.
I believe the Yellow River flooded.
No,
there were some disasters that happened.
There's a couple of disasters that are starting to happen. But the main thing that happens
is the Yellow Turban Rebellion.
Which
were basically Buddhist extremists.
No, they were Taoist extremists.
Taoist
actually.
Extremists, huh?
They also believed that they were led by a wizard. This is a fun little fact.
Jiang Hui.
Yes, he claimed to be a wizard. As many Taoists did during this period, they're basically pretending to be wizards.
So
this is a very common theme.
Just envision this Lopan looking motherfucker.
Yeah, and he says the sign of the new dynasty has come, and it is that of the yellow sky.
The emperors keep dying.
We're starting to get some famines, not a lot of them, but there's the occasional famine now. So obviously the sign is nigh. There's a yellow sky. I have seen it. I have had it foretold. I am a fucking wizard who can transform and shit. You should follow me.
And they did.
And they did.
But it took 21 years for the Han to beat them.
People wonder, why the fuck did the Taiping Rebellion? Why did people believe this guy was the son of Jesus? Well, they believed a man that said he was a wizard. Like this, there's precedent for this.
Well, also you're throwing out. I actually know a decent bit about later Qing. So the Taiping Rebellion. We're going into history. I hope you guys enjoy this. The Taiping Rebellion was mostly actually a minority revolt. It was a Hakka and Zhang revolt.
It was Hakka, Zhang, and some Cantonese. There was also
and Miao.
Yes, there were also revolts in the north at the same time
that were not affiliated, but then said, "Oh yeah, sure."
Oh yeah, sure, whatever. Like we don't care.
At its heart was a rebellion because during the Qing,
because fuck the Manchu, basically.
It was a mixture of that. This was basically sucking up because at this point the Qing have lost twice to the Opium Wars, proving that they are not the best in the world. They've had repeated floodings of the Yellow River. Famines happened every year at this point. All the signs were there.
Basically,
at least if you believed in the Mandate of Heaven, there were signs that the Qing have lost their way.
Not only that, but there's also yearly rebellions already.
Basically since the 8 Trigrams revolt.
Yes, it's like,
which is a big Buddhist millenarian revolt that tried to put the successor of the Ming back on.
Yeah, all of them are trying to claim to restore the Ming, by the way.
Yep. So anyway, the Hakka, I'm gonna have to explain. The Hakka and Zhang, the Zhang are one of the few languages that have nothing to do with Chinese. They're actually much more related to Thai.
Yes,
They
they're
speak
basically a Southeast Asian tribe that migrated into the region.
They speak Thai, and they probably were there basically since the barbarians in the Romance period that long.
Yes, they're basically those guys that were in here, and they're sort of like, yeah, we've been here for a couple of centuries. How you doing, Chinese person who thinks we're barbarians? And then they're around over 1,000
And they're
years.
treated like garbage, and that's
They're
why
treated
they
like
wanted to
garbage.
revolt.
Yes.
The Hakka were actually, I believe they came from like the central Chinese area.
Yeah, they migrated from
and they
there
migrated
to the south.
there, but the problem was they were not the first to go there. That would actually be the
Yeah.
UA people, which actually speak Cantonese.
Yes.
So that all the good
basically they're
farmland
the
was taken.
newcomers. Yeah, they're the newcomers to the migration game to southern China. So they're basically like they're left
They were
with
given
like the shittiest area.
parts of the land, because if you try to go up too high in the mountains, the Yi, which were related to the Tibetans but not quite, would shoot you.
They'd fucking murder you. Yeah.
So you can't fight the Yi. The Zhang would just straight up shoot you because they've been there way longer than you. They know the land better than you.
They know the land better than
you
you.
take the garbage land that no one wants.
Welcome to the shitty rice fields, motherfucker.
No, not even that. It's too poor for rice to grow. It was usually those awful dry hill lands. The only reason the Hakka grew in ability was because of the potato. If it wasn't for the potato, they would have fucking starved to death probably.
Basically, the potato
they were
caused
the
death of
poorest
30.
parts of China.
I'm sorry, but like the idea of a Domino's with some Andean man finds a tuber that tastes good to 20 million people dying in China. Like,
well, it allowed the Hakka to actually get a bumper crop for once, because it was marginal for everything else. Like, they could grow something like barley that worked better than rice, but like that's the cheapest crap.
Yeah, barley's just
it was something
nobody
like
likes barley.
It was like basically they couldn't grow rice, so they had to grow secondary crops. They were subsistence farmers. And Hong Xiuquan was Hakka. He was a Hakka
He was
Chinese
a Hakka scholar
who tried and failed 3 times to enter to finish. I forget the name of it's just the examination boards. I forget the name of it.
The name is important. Basically, it's the Chinese Civil Service examinations.
He failed it 3 times because it's extremely hard.
It was.
And while he was a rich peasant boy, he's still a peasant boy.
Yeah, he's smart,
and
he's not that smart.
That's
also
problem.
He's Hakka. Yeah.
So he doesn't know all of the legends, all of the Mandarin stuff, because, well, he's a Southern boy. He's a hick.
Also, they're asking for like certain kinds of things in the language to demonstrate your command of the language that he just doesn't have.
He didn't speak too well Mandarin. It was known he mostly spoke like Zhang, Hakka. He knew like all the Southern languages.
Yeah,
his Mandarin
but he couldn't speak
was
Mandarin
shaky.
very well. Yeah. So some of the stuff that was like in these instructions, because they'll throw you in a room and say, "We want you to write about this." And you need to use a certain amount of characters.
You need to write like 100 pages, because that's how bad these exams were.
Yeah, because they're basically trying to weed out anybody who cannot understand and master the language, because Chinese is a complicated language. You're going to be dealing with a lot of records. They want somebody who can also create records that are fun to read, because they're pretty boring sometimes.
And he couldn't do it because he mostly speaks Southern Chinese dialects.
Yes.
Not Mandarin.
He gets a brain fever, picks up
he gets very sick,
badly translated.
Well, here's what happens: he gets really sick, and he sees a vision of. I think it was probably supposed to be the Yellow Emperor in his mind.
Yes, at the time,
and a man who calls him brother,
and gives him a demon-killing sword. Let's not forget this.
Also, his organs were replaced with divine organs. This happens, and he wakes up going, "What the hell happened?" He doesn't know
what the hell happened,
because this doesn't really make a lot of sense to him. Like, maybe based on what he knows, it's like Yellow Emperor. I don't know.
It's a weird
fucking
fever dream.
Is he meets a street preacher, one of the first. I think he was like a Scottish missionary or something.
Well, it was probably one of the converts to these Scottish missionaries. There's basically to understand.
It was a young
Chinese
convert. It was like a young convert who was like selling badly translated, but as he reads it, he's like,
them out. These were also very illegal in the Qing at the time for very good reasons.
For very, very good reasons.
First off, they're horrifically translated. These are based off.
They're not the worst translated, but they're bad. It's not as bad as the first generation.
The first generation were basically unreadable.
To give you an idea, one of my favorite What If histories actually had a cult called the Rabbit People, because they accidentally made Jesus a rabbit, which was a bit of a South Park joke at the time, but it's also because, like, character-wise, you could actually have it happen.
You could actually have it happen because
Because
the
Jesus,
Chinese,
like the figure, I don't know if it was for Christ or something, but there's like something in Jesus's name that if you translate to Chinese can be translated to like rabbit, or like his
yes,
apostles could become rabbit.
the story of the translation of Chinese is very, very interesting. I highly recommend looking at it because the guy that basically did it
Wade
is one of the
Giles.
guys that votes for the Opium War.
Yeah, Wade
He's one of the
Giles.
biggest proponents. Yeah, Wade Giles. It's really a funny story. His entire life is basically ruined by the Chinese.
So what happens is
So
these are not second generations. These are like later translations with a
these
better
are sort
but
of
they're
like
shaky.
these are well. First off, these are based off of, if I'm
And they're
remembering my
booklets.
correctly, they're booklets. They're not actually the Anglican slash Methodist
I think
ones
it's
that
like Presbyterian booklets or
it's
something.
Presbyterian ones because it's Scottish. Now the Presbyterians were kind of late in the missionary game in China, so their translations,
Was a
because
little
their Bible is
shakier,
slightly different.
and their booklets were mostly like the Gospels. But what happened is Hung reads them, and he goes, "Wait, there's this
Wait a
divine
second.
figure that talks to
Whose
this
name
guy."
includes whose name includes my name? Oh fuck.
So that was actually God, and I'm basically the new brother.
So
I'm the new son, with
yeah.
Jesus
So
as my older
wait.
brother.
And so basically, it's like everything suddenly falls into place about
Because it
his
makes
weird
perfect
fucking
sense with
fever
his
dream.
fever dream, which was caused by him getting sick, but also like he just had a massive psychotic break because the third exam
Yeah,
was rough. He did it while sick and failed horribly
yeah. He did the worst of that of all of them.
because he was
So
sick when he did it.
yeah, and they don't let you stop.
No.
They put you in a room alone for a week.
And he had a mental breakdown by the end of it, and he was like already feverish, so that's why he had the
So
vision.
he thinks, yeah. So he grabs a fucking sword, claims it's a demon killing sword. He gets his cousin to
His
start like
brother,
also saying
first his brother, then his cousins, and then like thousands of Hakka who are like, yeah, fuck the
fuck
Ching, get the
the Qing.
Manchus out of here.
Yeah, like the Manchus are obviously demons in human form.
And
Like
the Zhang were also saying fuck the Qing because they were enabling Chinese to immigrate to their homeland.
Meanwhile, the European powers are like, "Oh, great, there's gonna be
He's a
Christian China."
Christian.
Then they talk.
Yeah, he's
They're
a
gonna.
Christian.
Then they talk to him, and they're like, "What the fuck are they talking about? I don't understand this."
The best part is it was not only that was the issue, but the big issue was he would also attack Europeans because it was also
Oh,
fuck
yes,
the
he would.
Europeans.
Yes, he also believed that they were also heathens and heretics.
Well,
Because
it was also
obviously,
because beating China, he wants to prove that he's better than the Qing by kicking them out because the Qing let him in.
it's also really funny because when they talk to when they talk to them, it's really weird because there's these preachers that are so happy that there's this Chinese group that's Christian that's taking over, and they go in there and they're like, "What the fuck is this shit?" They're so confused.
It's even
Like their
funnier
diaries
because
are
another
amazing.
thing that Hong did that a lot of people forget was he also was like pro women equality, but
For a while, yeah.
for a while, but he also forced them to have to sleep in their own beds. Like they couldn't actually interact with men and vice
Yeah,
versa.
mandatory equality, but separate. Also, you can't fuck.
Yeah,
Except for me, I get to have multiple wives and fuck because I'm the
I'm the emperor.
son of God.
I'm the son of God and the emperor.
There was also, if I remember correctly, I'm God, it's slipping away from me. But there was a bit of this during this entire thing. There was another expedition by the Europeans to China to punish the Chinese.
Yeah.
During the middle of all of this.
And they changed sides because they attacked Hong Kong. They attacked Hong Kong or Macau or something like that.
They tried to take Shanghai, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and like kick out the Europeans.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh, well, how about instead we teach you this new army that you have how to fight like we do?" And that's where the new model army of the Qing came from.
Yeah. Led by China Gordon. Another fun historical figure who we'll actually get to talk a little bit about later on, I think, in this book.
You can also thank the Europeans for releasing Yuan Shikai because also because the Taiping Rebellion is the Qing had to start recruiting Han a lot more.
Yes.
Because they preferred Manchu, Mongol, and actually Russian mercenaries.
Yes, Russian mercenaries were always a big factor in northern China, especially once the Russians reached northern China.
Again, apologies for getting off track. It's just,
sorry for this divergence,
China
but
is extremely rich in detail, and this kind of gives you the idea on the kind of situation that the Yellow Turbans were. It was basically a guy believed he was a wizard, and these emperors were mediocre. Eunuchs were ruling stuff and not well.
And the peasants
And
don't have
famines
a
were
don't.
starting to happen semi-regularly.
So the peasants are basically like, fuck it, like let's.
Well,
He
things are
says he's a
getting
wizard,
worse. And he's a wizard clearly. So
like he can do the fucking like disappearing finger trick. So hey.
yeah, no, he does the the joke of separating your thumb from your hand. That the
That's what I'm talking about. The disappearing finger trip. Ooh, he can do that really well. So they think he's a magical man.
And in this one, he might actually be, or he might be a sleepwalker.
Who knows? Like whatever you want to believe.
So anyway,
here.
21 years pass, and it took the Han an entire generation to put him down.
Not only that, but to do this, they basically had to go
conscript a lot of people.
They had not only had a conscript, but they basically had to accept local warlords because the rebellion was everywhere.
A lot of the most famous starters in the Romance of the Three
Kingdoms.
Basically,
everybody who you know from the Three Kingdoms at this period, like Liu Bei, whoever, like Liu Bei and Cao Cao, they both get their start as commanders fighting the Yellow Turbans towards the end of the war.
And if you know about the Black Turban Bandits, they also get their start as a breakaway from the Yellow Turbans, if I remember it.
Yep. So to continue on, they even mentioned
propaganda. It's actually funny because this happened. It shows history repeats because the warlord period in China, basically the same thing happened.
Yep. To put down the rebellions, you empower local warlords. Local warlords now think they can run the government, so they then start to turn on the central government as it collapses in lack of power and faith.
Well, what also happened is Emperor Ling again proves the Han aphorism of dying like a bitch while young.
Yes, and he has two sons.
And a general named He Yin had to basically manage everything because his kids were young.
Gotta love intersectional power struggles.
Now, not only this, right? So not only does he have two sons, which let's face it, as a Chinese emperor, if you only have two sons, you are doing something fucking wrong.
Considering the average Chinese emperor had enough concubines to fill up entire wings, yeah.
Yeah, like he is either.
In his defense, he died young because like the last three kind of also died young.
Yeah.
Also in his defense, it was kind of implied in some, at least it's kind of been taken in a lot of more recent accounts, that it's very possible some of the other concubines and wives were probably making sure there weren't many heirs.
Yeah.
Would you want to be with Emperor Ling, of the ugly bastard variety?
Also, the eunuchs may or may not have been helping out with that.
Well, I mean, it makes complete sense. If there's less candidates for the throne, it's easier to control.
Also, it makes it more likely that your son will end up on the throne.
Also, it makes it more likely. Your chosen puppet.
Yeah.
On top of that, it also makes it less likely for power struggles to happen if you have too many.
Yeah.
That can happen.
Mind you, that didn't happen as much in China, but it's the reason why the Ottoman Emperor would have a thing where first one to Constantinople gets to kill all of his brothers, basically.
Well, that was because of the death of the founder, I think.
Yeah, there was a massive power struggle early on.
It wasn't because of Osman. It was because when they fought.
Wasn't it the Timurids that did that?
He captured the Sultan and his sons tore their burgeoning little, I can't even call it an empire, kingdom apart. And after that,
because he didn't name an heir.
One more or less said, "Okay, make sure this never happens again. I'm murdering all of my sons. All my sons need to die. All but one of my sons need to die."
Also, then the thing came then that they just commit basically fratricide.
Yeah, after that was Suleiman. After that we got Suleiman, who did the exact same thing.
Yeah,
propaganda it was basically in the Three Kingdoms.
As mentioned, Cao Cao is basically made into a ruthless, awful person by.
He's China's version of Oda Nobunaga. In terms of Demon King reputation.
The difference is that unlike Oda, Cao Cao didn't really deserve it as much.
Was he? He was just as conniving. He was just as conniving and tricky as everyone else in his era. He just had the misfortune of pissing off the historians.
Well, in this case, because you could have won this asshole, and also Luo Guangzhong needed antagonists.
He really did. There was because the people he was backing.
Liu Bei could have been a good antagonist, but Liu Bei's the protagonist.
Yeah.
There's also the matter that basically the Jin, they didn't last as long as many of the
I mean,
dynasties.
when Sima fucking Yi's dynasty, when Sima fucking Yi takes over and ruins everything with his kids.
I mean,
Yeah.
the Western Jin only lasted, what, 100 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
It
is just a
lasted
fun
another
fact.
100 years, but it wasn't a unified China they led. It was
Yeah.
just the South.
But yeah, really, really dumb historical fact. The Eight Princes era, which is the era really literally right after the Three Kingdoms, is regarded as so taboo, backwards, and unpopular in China that when Total War did a DLC on it, it was mass spammed by netizens who felt that the very idea of doing a DLC on this was a dishonor to China.
They're just mad that they got their asses destroyed by like 5 random Mongolian tribes.
The
Well,
throat
it's more like
singing horse
they got
archers.
angry that they got destroyed by themselves, and the Mongolians just kind of walked in.
Like, they're just angry that some people
Yeah,
fucking
just-
yeeted them.
Like,
Even
we're
though-
not.
Sorry,
even
it
though-
happens. It happens
It happens.
sometimes.
It happens regularly to China. Like, there is
They built that wall for a reason.
for a reason, yes, but also like it's like, yeah, I mean, Rome was sort of burned by some fucking random step guy too. I mean, he is basically the devil in a lot of places, but like, we're not that anal about it. Meanwhile, the Chinese are
you
just
don't see
like,
random Italians get violently angry and negrate the hell out of Attila Total War.
yeah.
I mean,
It's sort of
if
accepted
anything,
that this random asshole came in.
And if you really want to be technical, Attila never even made it to. Well, he never burned Rome. That was the Germans.
Yeah, it was
That's
the
right.
Vandals. Why do you think they got the? Why do you think
And
their
the
name became
Visigoths.
a term?
The
And
Vandals, the Visigoths, the Ostrogoths, the other Romans did it too. Basically, everybody burned Rome for a
At
while.
some point.
Just what you do. It's like, hey, Rome's here.
But the Celts did it first.
The Celts did it first, and they never fucking forgave him for that.
Oh no! But anyway, back to China.
Back to China and more horrific deaths.
Oh yeah, but jokes aside, millions of people died in these wars.
Yes,
40 million actually.
So first off, as the death of Emperor Ling, the Uncle He Jin is in charge, right? So He Jin is then assassinated, or attempts to be assassinated.
Yeah, because
this is done by a
eunuchs
eunuch
got
faction.
terrified of him.
Because the eunuchs were worried that he was going to have them all killed.
Because unlike the last 3 emperors, He Jin wasn't completely, like, his head wasn't completely up his ass.
Also, he was noticing that there was a lot of money going missing when the eunuchs were. So he was getting a little bit
also,
like.
That a lot of people, a lot of his predecessors were dying suspiciously young.
Yes.
45% taxes, but I only see about 20% here. What's going on?
Like, what's happening?
How are you building another summer palace?
So anyway, he avoids it, and he tries to petition to kill all of them.
And then he gets fucking. Then they actually.
Then the entire bureaucracy just kills him.
Because they're like, oh shit, we're now all in danger.
And that's when the military steps in.
That's when the military steps in 2 different ways. There's a guy like Yuan.
Well, what happens is first, He Jin's personal army storms the palace and kills every single fucking bureaucrat they could get their hands on.
And the meanwhile, the 2 heirs to the throne run into the countryside screaming.
Well, yes, the eunuchs grab the 2 heirs because there's still some loyal eunuchs, right? That are like, oh shit, like they might kill
our
emperor's kids.
peers are fucking idiots.
Our peers are idiots. They might be killing
and
them.
The warlords are rebelling.
Speaking of warlords, this is when the Dong shows up.
The Dong, the greatest. I
Dong
love this man.
Dong Zhuo did nothing wrong. Don't at me.
I love this man. So Dong Zhuo is basically the equivalent of like the.
If Cao Cao got the manipulative part of the Demon King thing, Dong got the demon part.
Dong Zhuo is basically the ultimate NTR fat man. I'm except that he gets cucked in the end. So okay, so Dong Zhuo is, first off, he's incredibly fat. This is noted in basically every source.
Yeah. Also, he's a northern lout.
Yes, he's from the north of China.
He's from near the barbarian people.
He's from near the barbarians, and he's got a reputation of dealing with the barbarians as if they're barbarians. Like, he is a very brutal warlord.
He's also apparently extremely stubborn.
Yes.
committed
He's very
atrocities
stubborn.
casually.
Also very good at killing peasant uprisings if the Yellow
Yes.
Turbans were getting
He
close.
he basically realizes once he's got the two kids that he is now the big shit.
Oh God! Oh God! The capital's on fire. The Emperor's dead. And the two heirs are here, and I've got an army. Wait a minute! The capital's on fire.
Capital's on fire.
Capital's on fire.
They're all dead.
The guy's followers were killed fighting the eunuchs.
I have an army, and I have the Emperor. I rule this shit now.
Now I get to eat all the pies.
So he does shit that's incredibly offensive, like wearing a sword around the Emperor, which you're not supposed to do.
Not
bowing.
Eating all the pies.
Eating all the pies. Sleeping with the Imperial harem. He does this.
The heir is like 8.
Yep.
Yeah, he still has a harem, and
I'm
of
just
course,
envisioning this 8-year-old child going, "God, why are you doing this?
Uncle Dong, what are you doing with my third mom?
It's called wrestling.
It's called wrestling. You'll learn it.
Also,
you'll learn it when I'm more sober. I'll show you how to do it with your fourth mommy."
He was also famous. He was also famous for taking people who disagreed with him, rolling them up in fat, and then cooking them alive.
Yes. He also
did he eat them afterwards?
No.
No, that
he wasn't that barbaric.
This is China. Come on.
Though no matter how you put it, with mythical or just historical, he did get Lu Bu on his side.
He did. Now
everyone could get Lu Bu on his side if you lure him in with like a hoagie and like 6-pack or something.
Now that's true, but this is a bit longer. So essentially but like off of that. So basically, once the capital's on fire, the entire country goes, and the Dreadlord Dong is showing his massive girth all over the place.
Officially, he's only like prime minister. Officially.
Yeah. So
no one believes this. Everyone thinks it's horse shit because why? No. Look at him. Look at his fatness. Look at the fact that he's fucking the royal harem. Look at the fact he's treating it like he's emperor. Fuck this guy.
It's a mix of complete self-interest in some cases and maybe honest loyalty.
There's more like fuck Dong.
Yeah, basically, like there's like several alliances being formed here. There's the fuck Duong, fuck the guy party. There's
Restore the Emperor.
There's the Restore the Emperor party.
There's actually, this reminds me. There was a great Medieval 2 mod that actually has the different factions where they all have their different motives. Like instead of religion, like in Medieval 2, they had mindset, which one was restore the Han, one was destroy the Han, and make something new. And then one was like, fuck everything, destroy everything, return to barbarian.
Yeah, become barbarian. So Dong Zhuo is basically getting a coalition formed against him. This is actually a pretty famous bit where basically all of these warlords from the Yellow Turbine Rebellion who've gotten to know each other over time get together and basically say, we need to do something about this dude. They do.
We need to castrate the Dong.
And Lu Bu, who is at this point the adopted son / head general of Dong's army, he meets them and
kicks the shit out of them.
Yeah, he gives it really good, but eventually, there's at a certain point where they just overwhelm with good tactics as well.
Oh yeah, after being rebuffed repeatedly, faced with the impending threat, he first attempted diplomacy of offering as far as to offer his daughter in marriage to defuse it.
Like he's saying like, hey, like I'll let you into the government, I'll do all that, and then he burns the capital to the ground.
Because of course you do.
Because of course you do.
It's scorched earth. It was scorched. It makes complete sense. Unironically, it was just a completely pragmatic decision because. Well, yeah.
Oh my god! Look at these dancing animals.
Yeah. These are sin eaters.
No one liked that, and they hated him more. But funny thing, that was the best decision he ever made. You know why? Because the second all those warlords walked into that empty, burned-out capital, they were like, "What are we even fighting for?" And just kind of
like, what the fuck is happening? Why are we fighting? Point? And they just kind of left. Yeah, what's the point?
Yeah. Also, it's because they found like. Imperial regalia, and then the people immediately...
They assumed that he'd killed the Emperor, yeah.
They burned down the capital like that.
Yeah, they immediately got big heads.
Yes.
Oh, not only that, but like fucking bandit leaders and like random hobos were like, okay, now I can do stuff too.
Yep. So everybody's starting to fight again. Now, there's some loyalists, which is like Liu Bei and his guys. So this is where we get into Liu Bei, Zheng Fei, and Guan Yu.
But first
Guan Yu
off,
is
they
probably
mentioned
the
Cao
most
Cao.
famous. Yeah. This is also the first bit. Cao Cao is, like Machiavellian, but he does a lot of good things for China as well. He restores areas of it.
And he was a great
introduces
general.
literacy programs.
Case in
Say,
point,
say what you
he
want,
was
but people
outnumbered
didn't
5 to
fucking
1,
starve.
and he still won.
Yeah.
Do you know what Cao Cao's unironic major strategy was? It was make sure the fucking farms,
Didn't
are
burn.
doing well. Yeah, are doing well. It means I can feed more people, which means I can have more people, which means I can have more soldiers. That was his literal main strategy, and he used it to conquer the entire north of China.
And the only
His
reason
other
he
main
lost was
strategy.
he's not familiar with naval warfare.
His other main strategy is actually kind of brilliant and was kind of held over into other dynasties, which is that what we're going to do is we're going to create fortified military farms. We're going to arm all of these peasants, put them in a militia, and have them defend their farms. So I don't have to worry about it, and I can draft them too.
Oh yeah, I think that term's called Yaying. At least that's what the Qing called them.
Yes.
Basically,
Yes,
they were
one of his
provincial
ideas.
levies. I mean, it's useful at the same time. It can promote centralization, but as long as you shuffle out the officers, it's fine.
Yeah. It also helps because that you can basically, like, bandits have a harder time actually raiding one of these places.
Yep.
So that cuts down that problem. It gives you more soldiers. It gives you better trained soldiers right off the bat because they probably serve time in
Gives you
these
potential
militias.
NCOs.
IC was asking what do the eunuchs want all this money for, and the answer is
Whatever the fuck they want,
Well, they
basically.
want
palaces.
Yeah, they want to make the biggest
They were hedonists.
thongs.
They have no legacy to create, so they were just hedonists.
They wanted to
sometimes they'd
out-dong
also
dong.
send money. They'd also sometimes be sending money to their families.
Yep, that was a common thing. Was they would be
That was a
like
very
back up
common
the
thing.
family.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no one needed that. No one needs a third
Massive
summer
amounts
palace.
of drugs, maybe commissioning poems. If you're a big fan of art, you would use some of the money there.
Yeah.
Fancy robes for your ballless crotch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even if you can't get it up, you might still want a lady to talk to, like how.
Like basically like one of the, like a geisha or whatever, like the really classy ones, not the
horse, like the
Yeah,
good
the
stuff.
one- yeah, like
So
the ones
anyway,
that like
Cao Cao
genuinely know.
loses at the Red
This is
River.
way later though. That's like, this is referencing things that are ahead of time. But so back to this. So there's the Oath of the Peach Garden, which actually supposedly happened during the Yellow Turban Rebellion, which is where Liu Bei, Zheng Fei, and Guan Yu all swear oaths of fealty and loyalty to each other. Liu Bei.
It'd be really heroic and sweet if it actually happened.
Yeah, this is off. This never happened.
This is bullshit.
It's a very great. It's now, that being said, they were very close to each other. Historically speaking, they were friends at the very least, or if not friends, they were close enough allies that you really couldn't tell.
I mean, even in the historical records, they say that.
Even the fanfiction writer didn't say they made this oath, but it's just seen as like the ultimate fanfiction.
Yeah, but I'm saying even historical records say Liu Bei fucking broke down and cried when his friend died.
Yeah, like Guan Yu, they were all very close to each other. Guan Yu is actually the one that becomes the most
also
famous.
in the historical records, they still mention the historical records. He fucking drops his son on his head.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Yeah. This is not a joke. Liu Bei's son got captured at some point, and his friends went off to save him. And when they returned the child, Liu Bei picked it up, looked in the eye, and then dropped it on the ground and said, "You are worth more than any child."
He literally drops his own baby on the fucking ground.
People suspect that might be why his son and heir to his kingdom was a simple-minded idiot who unironically said this: "Father, do the toads croak because the government says so?" That is something that is an actual quote from him from historical records.
I'm just envisioning Liu Bei hucking the child onto spiking him like a football.
He's just fucking drop kicking. Now, Ike, it's time to kick the baby.
Frog's government bad.
This is the first version of the government's turning the frogs gay.
Yeah, it's because the son literally has a horrible brain damage from the time Liu Bei yeeted him into the ground because bromance over children.
Yeah, we're already an hour in, and we're just a few pages because there's so much stuff that's dense
China
here.
is just so nuts.
Yes,
It is
so
it is the greatest fan fiction of all time.
it is. So essentially, during this period, while Dong Zhuo is off doing his hedonistic shit, the coalition starts to fall apart. Especially
There's
because
nothing to fight for now.
yes, now there's a fight between
Also
Yuan
ambition.
Shao. Also ambition. Lots of ambition. Yuan Shao is basically the other big warlord aside from Cao Cao. Cao Cao defeats him. Starts to unify things, takes over Jing, grabs other stuff. There's guys in the south.
Effectively unifies the north.
Yes.
It takes
Namely,
time, but he
yeah,
gets there.
it takes time. He's slowly and methodically unifying his power structure, appeasing the right people, and otherwise basically preventing another organized opposition from rising up. The other thing is that there's then Sun Quan, who I try to remember who's his dad, Sun Jian, right?
Yeah,
Who's part of the original coalition against Guan Yu.
yeah, the tiger.
Yes. Now, the thing that happens is that then Lu Bu decides that he's going to do his ultimate Lu Bu thing, which is that I will kill whoever I call.
Yeah,
And
and his,
whoever I call what?
It's just he'll kill whoever I call father.
Of course
Yeah.
he does.
For the record, in the myth, he actually killed his first father, who in fact was his adopted father. Oh, it's confusing. China really likes adopting kids.
Yeah.
Deng Zhuo said, "Look, I'll give you this great horse, and I'll make you my son if you kill your dad." Lu Bu does this, but then Dong he wants to
Basically-
fuck the girl that Lu Bu likes, and he hates that, so he kills him.
Yes, basically.
No, in his records, it was most likely just a power struggle because
yes.
yeah.
In the story, so basically there's this really pretty fucking like woman, and so there's this middle level official who has a really pretty daughter, and he's thinking for the future. So what he does is he goes to Lu Bu and says, "Yeah, you can marry my daughter." Then he goes to Zhang Zhou and says, "Yeah, you can marry my daughter."
No. Remember, that's not what he did. He just showed her off. He just showed her off and let Dong do it.
Yeah, he sort of let Dong do it because what the fuck are you gonna do when the Dong comes for you?
When the Dong, remember the Dong destroyed
the Dong wants to
Luo
fuck
Yang with his mighty girth.
Yeah.
Literally, he set it on fucking fire. Are you gonna say no to this asshole?
Yeah.
The best part about this, right?
People thought he murdered the heirs to the Han throne. Would you really fuck with a man that's insane?
So the best part of this is that he goes then and just stabs Zhuang Zhou because he wants to get his dick wet. Dong Zhuo is then thrown out of the castle and set on fire.
And
He burns for 3 days because he's so fat.
And Greasy. Don't forget Greasy.
Yes, also Greasy. He is basically the NTR fat man who got what everybody wants to do to an NTR fat man.
I'm just envisioning, actually, like, starving Chinese peasants, like, taking his liquored fat, melting rendering fat and, like, saving it for, like, grease.
Yeah, no, or candles.
Yeah.
No, it's China.
Like,
they're gonna eat him.
Yeah, it's China. They're gonna eat it. Like, come on.
Yeah.
They're all starving at this
They're
point.
starving. It's starving, war-torn China. They're gonna eat it.
And with the death of Dong, killed any kind of unity.
Like now it's really a free for all in China. Lu Bu also sets up his own faction, loses, joins another faction, loses again, tries to join Cao Cao.
An eternal loser.
Okay, no, let's do the counting game of who did Lu Bu join and then inevitably betray.
All of them.
First, I think it was
first his adoptive father. We've got to start there. So his adoptive father for number 1, so that's one person. Then Dong, so that's 2.
His other adopted father.
Then I think he joins. I want to say like Kong Rong or some other weird.
Yeah,
no, he never joined Kong Rong. I think he joined someone that was fighting Cao Cao and then joined Cao Cao.
Yeah, he tried to join Cao Cao. He fought an opponent versus Cao Cao. Then he's like, "Fuck this! I betray again." And
don't forget that time he joined Liu Bei and then betrayed him.
That's who he joined. Yeah, he joined Liu Bei. Then he betrayed Liu Bei to join Cao Cao, and Cao Cao just fucking kills him.
No. First he did it. No. First he worked with Cao Cao, then he betrayed Cao Cao, and then Cao Cao was like, "Fuck this."
Because he tried to come back to Cao Cao, didn't he?
Yeah.
He did. He did. 7 or 8 betrayals essentially in his very short time, but very interesting time in the Neper.
Yeah, and then Cao Cao's like, on one hand, this is a man that can fight like 20 people at once and win.
On the
On the other hand, he keeps betraying people.
On the other
Also,
hand,
but
this
yeah,
man would betray his own shadow if his shadow had an independent thought.
yeah. Fuck. I actually remember this because this is once again not from the myth. This is from the historical records. Apparently, back when it was Liu Bei and he was
Lu Bu would stab his right hand because his left hand decided he wanted all the pie.
Speaking of stab, he actually this is a myth. Well, it's a story that's not from the myth. It's from the historical record. Apparently, Liu Bei and Cao Cao or someone were gonna get into a fight. He had Liu Bei. I'm not sure who the other guy was. But Lu Bu didn't want to fight between them because I guess for some reason he was feeling brotherly today. So he made them a deal. I'm going to put my halberd like 600. I'm going to put my halberd like over 100 yards over there, 600 feet over there. And if I can shoot this arrow through the hole into and nap the tassel, you both have to walk away. And they both said sure because they were kind of just wanting an excuse. And they were like, this is never going to fucking happen. Yeah. Lu Bu fucking did it. And they walked and they just left. Like, okay.
You're like, God damn it. This man has cheats. This man's fucking hacking.
Historical records, he was bullshit.
Yeah, like again,
because you can't stop betraying
crazy good warrior.
Cao Cao rightfully fucking executes.
He is quite literally chaotic evil.
He is.
Cao Cao rightfully fucking kills him.
Because he's basically a rage-fueled monster. That's the other thing. He gets mad.
Rage-fueled, insane, stupid monster who can beat everyone around him to death.
He's just a barbarian.
He dumped charisma and instead put everything into strength.
Also, luck, given that it's surprising that before Cao Cao, no one actually tried to just betray him.
Well, it's because it's like he's like, "I'll fight for you," and they're like, and because they remember he ripped the shit through the army, and they're like, "Sure, okay."
He was too clever by half. He wasn't an idiot, but he wasn't smart enough to realize that betraying everyone was going to mean he has no one left.
Betraying, yeah, that can happen. That can sometimes be useful. Pointless betrayal, that's stupid.
So we get into the other stuff here. So Song Qing, like there's like two different.
Just skipping way ahead because
because I'm going to like I'm still at the Oath of the Peach Guard.
Oh. I skipped. I was at Battle of the Red Cliffs and I was the opposite. I'm the opposite of you this time.
Sorry. So actually, I was at Battle of the Red Cliffs. Sorry. So we're at Song Quang. So we're kind of going through towards the decay of the alliances. So basically, Cao Cao, some of Red Cliffs, basically. Cao
Cao is not used to naval combat. That was an element of it.
Cao also Liu Bei consults a wizard.
Yeah.
Zheng something, right?
Yeah.
Zhuliang.
Yes, because of course there are multiple wizards in the story. Because why wouldn't there be?
As my history teacher put it, he is the Lancelot of Chinese mythology, in the sense that he's an overpowered OC.
Lu Bu
never existed. No, Zhuliang.
Oh yeah, Zhuliang. Yeah, the fucking wizard. Yeah, because why not? Like every story needs a good wizard. There's two good wizards in this.
He meant in the sense that he was bullshit. All his accomplishments were blown completely out of a.
Well, yes, because he's a wizard.
Yep, he's a wizard. Battle of Red Cliffs was a failure. It was mostly, like in popular culture, it's really emphasized, but you got to keep in mind, they marched pretty far to get there. Marched. They were getting tired of being lured out of their homelands.
Like at this point, it's been 30 years of war. Well. Yeah, it's been like 30 years of war. Cao Cao doesn't know the area that well. If he wins this, he's basically won the campaign. Like,
the other kingdom can't stand to him at that point.
Neither one of them can fight him on their own. But it's over.
And there's one more element. Again, Cao Cao's not used to naval combat.
He's not. He's never had to fight a naval battle.
He's a good land general, but not an admiral.
Yep.
And Sun Quan knew this.
Mm-hmm. He shouldn't have put his trust in the auto resolve.
Yeah. Well, what happened was he also Sun Quan knew if he destroyed his fleet, that destroys his supply train, and he's stuck there.
He's stuck there, and he's gonna have to march through a marshland again to get back.
And those people are gonna ditch him.
Yeah.
Even his loyal army will ditch him.
Essentially, after this, it more forms the status quo that will be that way for.
Because Cao Cao can't form another army to go over the river anytime soon. The other two have established power bases, and it's sort of a stalemate.
Also, one last funny thing about Cao Cao is about the Croakscoon. He is
Yeah.
the only person. He is the only one of the only warlords of this era, even after especially got the big, who never once said he never gave up the pretense that he was trying to restore the empire.
He never declared himself emperor. That is correct.
And the emperor, he never even declared himself a king. He always just said he was the prime minister. The others, no, they said, okay, no, I'm the real Han. No, I'm the real Han.
I'm the head of the Han because you've got a Han puppet, and I'm totally trying to take this back for you.
It was Cao Cao's son who gave up the pretense.
And that's basically the guy who wrote the story. He needed Cao Cao to be a villain, and because his son, Cao Pai, I believe it is,
was kind of a petty
Cao Pai was a lot worse. And
it's actually Cao Pi.
Cao Pi, yeah.
Cao Pi.
I know that in the PS2 game he's called Cow Pi.
Yeah.
Which fits. That's why Cao Cao though is villainized, is because of his shithead son.
Guan Yu also ends up dying because the Sun and
Guan Yu actually is really pumped up though.
He is, but he was genuinely a pretty good fighter.
Like,
I mean, even Liu Bei
commander.
wanted him.
But and then the Liu Bei dies pretty anticlimactically. His brain damaged son, quote unquote, takes the throne.
When in reality, his brain damaged son just gurgling, saying they're making the water so the frogs become gay.
Zhu Liang became his cow, essentially running the country.
Yeah.
I love the idea that Liu Bei's brain damaged son also believed the moon was made of cheese.
Yeah, Shu and Wei. So basically he declares himself the Shu Han Emperor. Liu Bei does.
Yep.
Because, of course. And then Sun declares himself the King of Wu.
And Cao Cao didn't try that, but his son Cao Pi.
His son declares himself Emperor of Wei. So the three kingdoms. Wei is the largest by far.
Because it's all of the north.
And if you're wondering which of the three kingdoms is going to be, it was Sima Yi, baby.
It was Sima Yi out of the Stone Cold Stunner.
Top 10 anime betrayals.
Top 10.
No joke. Literally, no one saw this coming.
It's like one of the greatest like last minute ass pulls you've ever. If this was fiction, you'd be like, who the fuck is this dude? Why the fuck is he important?
Who's this asshole?
I mean, he was mentioned in a few chapters a few times, but
and then at the end it's like, oh yeah, he took over, and it's like, what?
Yeah.
Actually, so what you're saying is Sima Yi winning is the equivalent of season 8 of Game of Thrones.
Yeah. It is.
The real dumb thing is that within just a few generations, all the kingdoms more or less were ruled by a bunch of unironically, in one case, literally ruled by eunuchs again.
Yes, that happened again.
It's almost like the eunuchs knew how to invest money or something.
Or by the product of it, or a retard who was formed from the product of incest.
Well, you see, the reason the eunuchs won again is because they knew how to invest money. Damn it, they invested in Bitcoin.
Yeah, it seemed like he just took over the north, and then just literally just like in one battle each, just took each kingdom. He sat on his throne, said, "Yeah, baby." Then he croaked. His son took over, tried to fix what was going to very quickly become a very big problem.
Because
didn't
the
succeed,
Jin weren't
and the
well
country
managed.
went back to civil war, and then back to civil war.
Yep, 8 princes, baby, and don't forget the 5 barbarians came in.
It's just, on top of all this, right? So there's also a few other tribes that are living in China at this time. You got to note that, and they're throwing in with really whoever they want to.
Yeah,
they even give the 3 kingdoms right here, life in the 3 kingdoms. So for Wei, it's the heartlands of China. It's swarmed with refugees and independent groups, basically bandits that would take the guise of something more innocent, like self-strengthening societies and shit.
And this is where the agricultural garrisons come into play.
Yep, and Cao Cao was like, okay, we're going to do that. I like how they explain this, too.
Yes.
Farmers were not required to work through middlemen. Basically, they directly could it cut away like
you just give taxes. You say, okay, 1 out of every 10 rice things goes, like, you keep that, we get the rest. And it's like, okay.
I don't know the units of measurement in China, so sorry.
I don't either. So
bag. You give me 1 bag out of every 10, fine.
Yeah, fine.
And that was much easier than working through middlemen. And then Cao Cao was like, okay, here's a sword or a spear and like a helmet and a shield.
Or if you were
And
lucky, a crossbow.
yeah, and here's how you defend your lands. And yeah, now just pay taxes, please.
Pay taxes, and I might sometimes need to call some of you, but not all of you.
Yeah, like technically they're exempt from extension, from conscription, but they'd often
But if
basically
another
imply.
army's walking nearby, they're not going to resist.
Yeah,
The core of the idea was to assign rectifiers to each region, which would evaluate potential candidates for office based on criteria.
yeah. So he tried. He genuinely tried to make an actual.
It wasn't immune to corruption. This is just a bad time for China in general.
Yes. Then of course there's Shu, which is around the Red River, and also basically the writer's pet.
It's most favored by the ancient texts because Red River
well,
his line eventually because I think it was the next dynasty traced their lineage to him.
Because
Ming could trace their...
the Ming, yeah. Song not
the
so
Ming
much.
Could. The Song not really. The Song was closer related to the Wu, I think.
Yep.
I said
the reason Shu was able to get away with this shit is because it's in Sichuan Basin.
Yes.
There's an old China. I don't know if it's Sichuan or Yunnan, but there's an old poem. I've repeated it before on stream. It is said that it is harder to reach Sichuan than it is to ascend the staircase to heaven.
Yeah,
also, it didn't help that he literally just inherited it because the guy who actually held all that land died, and he didn't. And strange things happened to his heir.
Yeah.
Our hero, everyone.
Anyway, the last one's Wu. There's a bunch of resources because South China. While Shu could take its time because it was so protected by a terrain, because Sichuan's really amazing for defense.
Wu had to fight.
Also, they had a really great advantage. Do you know what it was? They didn't have to deal with Mongolians or jungle people.
That's true. They had to still deal with jungle people.
Shu didn't have to.
But those jungle people were much less bad than the jungle people the other ones had to deal with.
So the thing about Shu, they had to deal with Tibetans and Yi. That's not too bad. There's also I forget the name of. There's another ethnicity in like Yunnan province. Might be Yi. I might be just thinking of the Yi again. But that's not that bad. They just hang out in the mountains, and it's only dangerous when they come down those mountains to shoot at you. That's not bad. That's easy to deal with. Wu had the non-Yue people to deal with, the Zhang to deal with, and they had Wei to deal with. Oh, and also Shu when they felt like trying to expand beyond Sichuan.
Yep.
Anyway, Wu's big advantage was its navy, because it had to have a navy.
It's mostly coast.
Yeah. People are just keep talking about all this China stuff, and all I hear in my head when you talk is Ching Chong Chu. That's all I
Ironically, I'm the one trying to rush it. It's interesting.
Yeah.
How y'all doing?
So moving on, we've got the next bit.
Wait. Before moving on, let's see how Chad is doing.
You didn't even introduce me.
I said it's the dummy.
You need no introduction.
You need no introduction. Really? You're notorious, and I'm going to actually get
You're famous, and we all love you.
See?
I love you too.
I added you into the group thing.
I love you.
Maybe do it on something that's not your phone, though.
Anyone get a quick summary of the Three Kingdoms? This is the best we can do. Decadent King overthrown. It's more like 3 Decadent Kings, and then a guy named Dong kind of took his kids.
Yeah.
How do they have the logistics for it? It's China. They kind of have to.
It's China. They do. China's always had a very
strong bureaucracy. Yeah.
A lot of it's because they got into the writing game pretty early.
Not as early as say the Sumerians, but they were actually one of the only cultures to keep that obsession.
Yeah. Like everything is written about it. Like they wrote everything down. I do mean everything.
On the bright side,
there's a lot of.
Yep. Go on.
Sorry. There's a lot of other stuff that kind of like goes into the logistics of it, which is that rice is actually kind of easier to move around than other.
It also keeps better.
It's calorie packed.
It's calorie packed and it keeps a bit better. And on top of that, they had soy, which was a very cheap protein.
Yeah, so you can support large populations pretty easily
because you have access to carbs and proteins. The only thing you're kind of missing is minerals, and that's fine. Basically, China had a slight advantage. Like rice, it's more water intensive, yes, but You can dry it
have
out
the
in
rivers.
stores better.
They're not lacking for water with all those rivers.
The rivers help, and also rice stores better. It doesn't rot as easily.
Yep.
And last but not least, again, it's kind of a game changer when you have plant proteins. And China had soy crops, which were, it's the cheapest stuff on man. That's why so many products nowadays use it to enrich meats, actually.
And kill me inside.
Yeah. Anyway, traders within, that's a big problem. Also, the southern tribes, not much was written about them because, they're not Chinese, so who cares?
Right there. I'm not on my pooter anymore.
The other thing with that is that the southern tribes just didn't write stuff down.
Not really.
They're
It actually, they only started picking up writing after this period. Mainly because it was imposed onto them by the Chinese cultural domination.
Yeah. So like
most
so
noted
there's
of
some
which are the Miao people, or the Hmong.
Meow.
Mhm.
Hmong Miao.
We're also known as the
They're
the
like
boat
one of the
people.
earliest. They're one of the earliest peoples in the south, actually. They're almost. They're like in some pockets. And then the Zhang, and then I think there are also like other Thai, Kadai, and Vietnamese speakers from that area. But the Chinese kicked and absorbed those ones out.
Yeah.
So anyway, loyal to the end. They talk about Zhu Liang.
Yeah, Zhu Liang takes over because his son is not ready.
He's
and never will be.
gurgling. He's gurgling about how
he's a retard. His dad dropped him in his head.
Yeah.
He gurgles about how drinking cow piss
And
will
Louis
cure
Chen
diabetes.
is just as fucking corrupt as the original Han, living up to the legacy. And goes and like it's not like like there's a couple of emperors before we start to dig the wine pool. He goes right to the wine pool.
Oh,
also,
why wouldn't you?
Great thing about Zhu Liang, his last ever deed of importance was fucking fighting the barbarians who Chinese populate remember them as barbarians that don't even wear any form of armor beyond wood, and repeatedly losing until he eventually just kind of pacified enough of it to call it victory, and then died of malaria.
Oh yeah, that's probably either the Shan or the Yi peoples of like Burma and or fucking Yunnan province.
Well, yeah,
It was probably
because
Yunnan.
that area. Yeah, it was
If you're wondering, the Yi people, they kind of are interesting. They live in the low mountains and hill parts of the area. The highest peaks were usually Tibetan. The Yi were noted for being tough to deal with when they revolted, mainly because the terrain.
Like Yunnan is an awful
So
place to fight.
I understand Zhu Liang struggling to beat them because the Yi are a pain.
Yeah. Then he fought Wei one last time and took a province, and then died of malaria.
Well, what probably happened was he drank the
Yay.
malarial water of the fucking Yellow River.
Yay! He collapsed and then fucking dies. So
I'm just envisioning Zhu Liang intentionally drinking malaria water on purpose.
if Liu Shan is like the part of the Han dynasty that is the corrupt, awful part in terms of like just straight to the wine and debauchery, the Saos basically ran into the oh god, all of our guys die young problem.
Yep.
Hedonism, but just a bit of hedonism.
Cao Pi died at 40.
Acceptable. Cao Pi dies at 40, and his son is
even younger.
Well, no, all the 4 officials that were put in charge of this like 5-year-old all fucking die, and then it's just Sima Yi by who knows how.
I like the idea that it was more of a Magoo situation where even he's like, what the hell?
What the hell? It might have been.
The funny thing about Sima Yi was, unlike Zhu Liang, who always liked to he was well known for his big long game plans. Sima Yi was more tactical in the sense that he didn't tend to don't do those. He just kind of adapted.
That's why I don't think he pulled the funny, but when he saw the funny happening, maybe because the eunuchs were being stupid, he's like, well, guess I can take advantage of this.
That's the thing. It's hard to know with him whether or not he was just sort of like, this is a giant master plan, which is what I think the Three Kingdoms implies, sort of, is that this was his master plan.
I don't think he's smart enough to think of that. I think he
in
just
reality,
took
it might
advantage
have
of it.
just been like
Sima
he's
is
in the
very-
right place at the right time.
Yeah, Sima was quite smart. Don't put him
He
down.
was smart,
I
but
know.
like you're describing a guy who's more of a in the moment kind of guy. So I'm thinking what happened
Yeah.
was Cao Pi died, and then like a couple other guys died, and he thought, I'm like
Yeah.
one of two or three guys left.
Yeah.
If I kill the other
speaking
guy,
of
I
this,
basically I can basically be emperor.
Sima also, by the way, outlives this emperor.
He outlives them all.
Yeah, which is insane. He's got to be like what, close to 90?
In all fairness, I do.
I gotta be honest, I really didn't expect to outlive all of them.
Yeah. People, like sometimes lifespans are funny like that.
So
It turns out Sima Yi was stealing the Sao line's fucking life force to live longer.
No. He found the ancient mercury he found the ancient mercury potions and they work this time.
Yeah, made mercury
knows?
potion works.
Yeah, so they mentioned that like not every Chronicles.
I mean, he still looks horribly old. Like it's
Yeah,
it's that type of immortality where you got to keep drinking it, and it doesn't reverse your age. It's like a Master Roshi scenario where he still looks 90, but he's not gonna die.
I'm gonna look 90 forever. So it's like, oh shit, that kind of sucks.
That's why he stopped taking it, because like fuck it, I'm tired of dealing with all this pain.
Yeah. So
all this
they
knee
mentioned
pain and back pain.
Speaking of the court politics, so they go a little bit. They break the historical narrative to go in for some game ideas, which I think is actually a decent way to interlay this.
This is actually so far. I mean, we've been kind of skimming, but this is a very good resource if you don't know the Three Kingdoms. I was reading it through. It's a good starter. It's a very good.
It's a very good starter. Yeah.
Like to give you an idea, the actual writings, the actual Ming propaganda, isn't it like 20 volumes or something?
It is one of the longest books. It is insanely
long. You even call it
long.
A book? You even call it a book and more of a chronicle?
It kind of is. It's like the Lord of the Rings. It's like if it's like Lord of the Rings, or Lord of the Rings is like
it's like Lord of the Rings have had an obese slug kidnap children, a guy filled with rage and brain damage who thinks that betraying a guy and coming back will work. A guy who dies gurgling of malaria, and a kid who thinks that the water's making the frogs turn gay.
It's China's preeminent epic.
Yes, like
I'm making light, but it is amazing.
It is to Chinese the literary world of China as to what like
Arthurian myth.
Arthurian myth would be to the Western world, and to a lesser extent Tolkien.
I would say
it influences so much.
Arthurian legend, or again, I still am gonna have to use the Catholic fan fiction of Inferno, Purgatorio, and Paradiso.
Yeah, except like those aren't referenced nearly as much.
I think I'd compare Wuxia more to Tolkien, but yeah.
Yeah, well, you get the point though. Like
anyway, court politics. Not every chronicle in the Three Kingdoms period needs to be a bloodbath, so you don't need to constantly have like Lu Bu murdering everyone because because his brain tells him to. Yeah. Because for every encounter between two generals, there was usually conversation between families instead.
Families,
a lot of manipulations, wheeling, dealing.
So lost freeholds and Sin-Eater bands could find a lot to do here. A sample
of Chronicle reminds me, they actually give names. I'm going to scroll back up. Don't worry, we're going to go back. I just want to show there's terms for these.
They actually do pretty simple terms,
another name for a Sin-Eater band. Blackguard, Geists. Du, the underworld. Egui, hungry ghosts. Jiangxi, those are the hopping vampires. Guangdong, Arcadia, or the Hollow as they call it. Whiteguard, that's another term for Sin-Eater. Wuchangui, Sin-Eaters, ghosts of impermanence. The Yama Kings, which is a nice reference to Kindred of the East, right?
It is, but it's also basically the term of any. Yeah, and then Yao Guai, which is just a general term for monsters. Spirits.
Also, this is just a minor note, but it's just something to remember because unlike kind of more Western fiction, blood rage was both important and not nearly as important in China. To where this was a time where peasants could more or less raise themselves up to generalship. I mean,
that's basically what Liu
Bei
did.
Literally, nothing before Liu Bei shows up. I mean, he was literally first off Liu Bei. He made sandals.
He was a literal fucking cobbler.
His only claim to fame was that he could trace his bloodline to like a member of the Han, and he badgered enough officials to just get himself an education.
Like
Yep,
even
because
then,
he was
But his
like,
two generals, his friends, no, to our knowledge, they may not even have ever had a formal education.
one of
Yeah.
them didn't.
it's even arguable if he was related to the Han. Like it might have just been one of those like,
I
yeah,
made
we're
it
totally
up.
related.
I made it up when I gained enough power. Or
Like-
technically, it's possibly true because
No.
did
In all
fling.
fairness, he was bragging about it even before all of it. Even before all
It
that.
might have just been one of those family things, basically.
Like
Like
a fling, like, yeah, oh yeah, we're descended from like one of the Han
a
emperors who
bastard son of
decided.
the Han. Yeah.
Like this emperor was known to go around go around cities and just kind of hook up with women.
Found the prettiest concubine in all of China.
No. He never claimed to be related to a Han emperor, just the Han.
Oh wow, that's even. Oh, that's like saying, hey, yeah, like I'm really Michael third cousin.
Yeah, that's essentially
So it
what
wasn't
he
even
kept
an emperor.
doing.
So it was like the fifth prince of like one of the emperors who just like to wheel and deal outside
Also,
of town.
as another note, there wasn't really aristocracy was weird in China because technically there was none, but it completely existed.
There was, but it was bureaucracy that was much
There
more
was
important.
bureaucrats,
Yes.
and technically anyone could become a bureaucrat. But funnily enough, those bureaucrats.
I
could
remember the
afford
name
better
of the
educations for their
examination
children.
system. It's called Keiju.
Yeah, they could get.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could actually get good teachers for their children.
Yeah, so back to this though. So a sample chronicle could take place right after Sima Yi is appointed as one of the 4 regents for Cao Rui. Sima Yi's counterparts all died within the next few years. Was foul
Yeah.
play involved? What if Cao Shang was in fact aware of the Sin Eaters and had asked them to investigate and had found evidence pointing to Sima Yi's ambition? Certainly, that would explain why he worked so strenuously to remove the general from power. Similarly, a freehold could find
That's
itself
also
either in
why
opposition.
he died at the age of 35.
Yeah. Similarly, freehold could find itself either in opposition or in support of the Sima family's ambition.
And this is like post, really most of it.
Yeah, you could do that.
This is the part of the Three Kingdoms no one likes to talk about.
Yeah, this is the end bit that nobody likes to talk about because it's like all the fun.
It's all politicking. It's all
politicking, and all the fun guys like the wizards are all gone, and it's like, God damn it, I want more wizards.
Some asshole named Sima Yi who you barely paid attention to earlier.
Yeah, it's like the Star Wars sequels. Like it's like, oh hey, there's some interesting, and they're gone.
No. I got a better analogy. It's like if all of the boring politics parts of the prequels was just shoved into the last movie.
Oh yeah, like what happens is you have like no. Instead, you have it like being the rise of Emperor Palpatine, and it shows like the Clone Wars. And Anakin's fall, and then it shows like the Emperor going, "Yes, I passed legislation that makes it so that my terms are infinite." And Vader just like describes tax policies with him and betraying the Neimoidians and like
the assassination of that guy from who was Leia's adopted father.
Yeah,
Bail
like
Organa?
he described Bail Organa's planned assassination, and like that fails, and it's like, we must come up with a plan to counter that. Yes. I come up with the Death Star.
Yeah.
And it's like 2 hours of Ian McDiarmid and like fucking James Earl Jones just talking to each other. That would be.
I would watch that movie.
It would be fun.
But people would be angry.
They'd be angry, so mad. But like, just envision like these two like politicking and like
Elaine McGregor and James Earl Jones doing like a weird political rodeo. I would watch that.
And you got like a bunch of Grand Moffs that he's established. Like, I declare you Grand Moff Tarkin, and you just don't see his head.
And then you hear grumbling. Oh, space wizards. Whoever got us into space wizards.
And you see him execute random Jedi in a fucking line, and that's like the most action you get.
But yeah, so Cao Rui, which is the emperor, doesn't last very long, and
he
that's
only
where
lives
Cao Shuang, which is the son of one of the other regents, basically realizes that Sima Yi is getting power, and stuff goes nuts. So Sima Yi basically
because neither man was willing to share power because Cao Shang was like, I don't trust
somebody outside the family. Sima Yi is like, you're completely incompetent. Go fuck yourself.
You guys have died young, and you're not the smartest man in the room like you think you are.
So there's dissidents in politicking. Sima Yi basically goes to one of the princes, accuses his rival of basically like fucking his mother or some shit.
Yep.
And
conduct and corruption.
the guy then surrenders to Sima Yi on the condition that I can keep all the money I stole, right? And Sima's like, sure, buddy, and
Sure.
then fucking kills him. Yeah.
I'm just
Like-
envisioning, sure, and then he pulls out a repeating crossbow, and then it just you hear in the background, and then I started blasting.
And then I just started blasting. So the funny thing is that Sima Yi, despite engaging in all these politicking, could not stand corrupt officials. Did not like them. Hated them. With
And
every
the
fiber of his
problem
being.
was, of the 4 guys, like 2 of them were corrupt.
Yeah, like I could
And they were
understand
both
him taking
family.
out those two.
They were both
Yeah.
Sao.
So a particularly known as General Wang Ling, who attempted to replace somebody with another candidate, and
another of the Sao
Sima
family,
Yi.
yeah.
Sima Yi then offers him the opportunity to surrender, and everything will be forgiven. Then nope, you're gonna have to kill yourself.
No, it's like, please, yes, I'm willing to surrender. Oh, that was not actually a thing. What?
That I've altered our arrangement. Freya, do not alter it further. Sima Yi is just Darth Vader from episode 5.
Does that mean like the small child is Emperor Palpatine that he then murders?
Yes.
I'm just envisioning Sima Yi, this old grandpa with a fucking beard, throwing the small child down a well after like the kid uses awakened mage powers to electrocute him like Lopan or something.
It's really amazing how this whole discussion doesn't feel like a lore dump, but more of like we're talking fucking history or something.
Because it is history.
Because that's the thing with Dark
Oh,
Earth.
it
It's
can
history
be both.
and
It's
setting.
both.
This is telling you the boring parts that no one reads about. Like, no one reads this part of romance. Except
this is the
Chinese
part-
historians.
Except for Chinese historians and people who really like the story.
Like,
So-
like, imagine if at Dynasty Warrior Games you have this old grandpa-looking motherfucker arguing and squabbling with Sao Ri.
Yeah.
A literal coup.
So then Sima, his son Sima Shi, because Sima Yi basically at this point has arranged that his family will take over this the northern kingdom.
He's the Crusader King 2 character you did everything with, and then immediately croaked when you created the Empire title.
Yeah, like you almost had the Empire title and he dies, and you're like, well, we got to do some more politicking.
Well, in
So-
this case, Sima Yi never
No.
became Emperor
He
himself.
created the Empire. It's just
He created the winning
short
plan.
rain penalty. Short rain penalty times 10.
Yeah. So
Sima
Sima
Shi.
Shi then consolidates power. Basically, he manages to take out Eastern Wu, defeats Zheng Ke,
Zhule Ke, yeah.
suspicious about a conspiracy, murders a guy named Li Feng, condemns his entire family to death, then makes Cao Fang, who is the current emperor, like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, what's going on? And then Sima Shi goes, now you're off the throne now, bitch. Get off of it.
Get off my throne. Don't you mean my throne? No.
Well, I discovered a plot to get rid of you, and I'm going to blackmail you with it, so get off the throne.
And then
that works
Sao
somehow.
Mao.
Cao Mao becomes the next ruler. Cao Mao is the actually decent one. Sima Shi then dies because, of course. So his brother Sima Zhao is...
Yeah, basically Sima Shi. We don't know what he died from, so I'm just going to assume he died of, like, I don't know, fucking
He died
dysentery.
of one of those weird Crusader Kings things, like he got eaten by a fish or some shit, played a bad chess game with death, who knows? Like,
he got
one of those
a
deaths.
fish bit him on the foot and it rotted off and he died.
Like, we're not going to look up this one. I'm pretty sure there's an entirely crazy story about it, but, here we go. So, Sima Zhao starts to make demands of the Emperor,
Yeah, Sima
Because
Zhao,
he-
yeah.
because he's got all the power here. And finally, it comes to blows.
Yep, Sao Mao just tells him that he must remain at his post, and he's like, no.
Nope. And Sima Zhao also controls the army.
Pretty
he's
much
marching the
because
army back
Sima
to
Yi
the cap.
set it up.
Yep. So he's walking it back there, and Cao Mao's like, no. He's making demands, and of course, then he's coyly rejecting it as a sign of humility. Like, I want the Imperial raiments. Okay, I'll give you the Imperial raiments. No, I don't want them. I don't deserve them. Like, he's basically just being an asshole.
Basically, he's trying to pretend to be humility, and Sao Mao is like, okay.
He finally takes a single step too far, and the Imperial Guard chases him out of his home, and he runs like a bitch. He then tries to raise his own troops against them. They're not really willing,
Except
for one guy named Cheng Ji. who basically had sworn an oath to defend the Sima name against all foes ever,
And he killed him.
And he kills Cao Mao with a spear.
And everyone kills him.
Then Sima Zhao declares him a traitor, his entire family traitors, and has them all executed.
Conveniently.
So he then forces the Empress Dowager to posthumously demote the emperor, appoints a new emperor, and basically just puppets it behind there. And then his son Sima Yan takes over the throne after his death, and Cao Han.
Because at this point, there's no point in keeping the lie.
Yeah, and here comes the Jin Dynasty,
which was a
For
jump
all of 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It lasted like 30, 50 years.
It lasted like 50 years, which, honestly, considering the
That's
amount
better
of time
than the
it took to
Sui
get
dynasty,
started.
which was ruled by a Harridan.
Yeah.
I mean, it ain't her fault that Chinamen hate women, but you know.
Yeah.
I know, but people are never going to let it live down how badly it ended. Because as someone once, let's be honest. Like most people are fine if your whole thing doesn't go great so long as you stick the landing. But no, they didn't stick. This isn't beyond sticking landing. The Sima clan fucking face dived into a pit of alligators.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the Sui dynasty, which had the same fucking problem.
Doesn't matter how great your reign was if it all ends in tears and fire. Hey, that's where the Han at least remember. They got a whole epic about their end.
Hey, remember the People's King Louis, and how he had the same thing happen where people applauded him with cheers when he took the throne as the Citizen's King, and then fucking threw him out.
Yeah.
For the Second Republic.
Yeah.
the Orleanist cause.
Yeah.
So anyway, the Hungry Dead. History is written by the victors, but it's also molded by the influential, shaped by men and women of power. People can ransom truth on a whim, and at times it's also nudged by smaller players. Basically, Three Kingdoms was not a nice place if you were a peasant.
Yeah.
It was filled with
millions of people died.
It was filled with superpowered assholes that did flips every so often.
I gotta ask Biggie, how would you like to die? Is starvation up for it? Do you want to get murdered by religious extremists? Do you want to be murdered by bandits? Do you want to be drafted into an army and die fighting someone you don't know or care about?
Do you want some asshole who will get put into the fucking great history written by some asshole 1,000 years later because you offered him a pig and he fucking killed you and your whole family?
Yeah.
And then ran away like a bitch?
Or you killed your wife to feed this guy as a soup and then told him after he ate it.
Oh god.
This happened to Liu Bei.
Guys, it doesn't matter how many billions of Chinese people were killed. We got a very cool setting out of it at the very least. They made a decent total war campaign.
No, it goes beyond that. It is the most influential piece of Chinese literature ever.
It's the most influential, like, quote unquote factual, right up there with Journey to the West.
Like, yeah, it has influenced.
And despite that, countless died and all forgotten, glossed over to make room for more palatable imagery. So yeah, in this setting, ghosts are very fucking common. Because there's 40 million dead people walking. Depending on when the setting you enter, millions are dead, and that means thousands are wandering.
You count the Three Kingdoms also beginning with the Yellow Turbans, because even then people were dying of starvation by that point, in the millions.
Yeah.
So like no matter where you start in the epic, at least like 3 million are dead already.
So in many cases, the apparitions simply became Yangui, lost souls who whimpered their miseries to anyone who would listen. Others demanded more. They would become the hungry ghosts, whether wraiths or neglected ancestors or the damned souls of the gluttonous. They would trawl the world for fulfillment, often at the cost of mortal lives. And one of the most common things that would happen is these ghosts, these dead, the suffering dead, would just repossess the corpses and they'd, hop around as Jiangxi. Literal fucking hopping vampires. And it didn't help that, Taoist occultists made a business of bringing them back. So,
yeah, slight digression on Taoist occultism. Taoists, like alchemists and occultists, are some of the weirdest but craziest and funniest shit that you will ever find.
They
These are the
actually
guys that said you
invented
should drink mercury.
gunpowder as a failed way. It was actually supposed to be a failed immortality solution, like the
Yep.
dry part of a immortality potion.
Yeah, it's also where all the weird cultivation novel bullshit comes from.
Yep.
Which can be both simultaneously some of the most hilariously camp shit you will ever read.
I also think they
And-
invented the original No Nut November.
They basically did, yes. There were certain schools of Taoist thought that basically thought that masturbating or actually like coming ever would ruin your refinement,
Cultivation.
and thus all women are thoughts and must be avoided. They must be
They
patrolled at all
invented
times.
NoFap.
Yeah, they
Mhm.
invented being the Sigma
No,
male.
no, they invented MGTOW.
They probably did.
No, they're basically Sigma males. Like that weird, basically like disrespect women.
Oh,
Do nothing.
yeah, all these dead
Live
people.
on your own.
So the thing is, Taoists in this setting are very useful because, you know, it's a great way to dispose of the dead and take them back to their ancestors.
Yeah. So
And they actually explain what the
mentioned-
Jiangxi are. We actually see them
Yes.
in oh god, what was that vampire book?
Night Horror's Wicked Dead. Wicked
The
Dead
Wicked
has
Dead.
a take on the Jiangxi.
They have a
Second
different take
edition
on 'em.
Vampire also has a different take on the Jiangxi.
This
Because
is also
it's
a
a
different
term
take
that
on
can
the
mean
Jiangxi.
it can mean, because the Jiangxi can be a lot of different things.
It
Like
could
a
be
lot of
failed,
these terms.
It could be a failed Taoist immortality experiment, which is what Wicked Dead did.
Yes.
Or in this case,
it's
they're literal
living
fucking
corpses.
zombies.
Yeah. In this case, they're zombies. In other cases, they're people brought back to life with magic. In some cases, it's just like it's a vampire. Like it's just a vampire.
In folklore, you usually see them with like blue skin, and they wear the scholar's robe, and they have a seal on their head.
Yes,
The
to
seal is
control them.
actually what animates and controls them. Otherwise, they would just go rabid and just start eating everyone.
Yeah.
So Jiangxi, they're drawn to families they've left behind. It could be a sibling, lover, or even a pet. They'll naturally gravitate towards anything that they've shown affection to. And while that sounds cute, it
They'll
always
do
ends in
horrible
bloodshed.
things.
It means you've got a living corpse that needs to eat life force coming towards you to say hi.
And they're probably going to eat you, the family.
Oh, it also does aggravated damage to you just because.
And yeah, they also have increased strength because
Yeah.
they're
Armor,
corpse.
and they eat your and they eat your fucking stamina.
Yeah.
Unless you have a Taoist monk actually controlling and taking them home and doing the rituals to, you know, put them to rest. And actually, that's one of the things about the Taoist monks in this setting. For Geist, there's millions upon millions of dead. The battlefields of China run riot with the carrion, spirits possessing corpses as wild Jiangxi, just looking for the next bit of key. Your duty as a Geist traditionally is to put those fuckers back down and to take them back to their families.
Yep.
Also, I'm not
As
sure
a
if
Sin Eater, Geist is the thing that possesses you as a Sin Eater. That's your ghost.
Imagine
part.
Ghostbusters if instead it's the zombie apocalypse and you're the zombie exterminators.
Also,
You're a zombie
I just-
exterminator that is
okay.
also a zombie.
I was also wanted to say this. I'm not sure if this is made clear or something like that, but the DM should make this clear. Taoists in a lot of parts of China at this time are kill on sight because they're still associated with the yellow turbans.
Yes, they are.
And that's one of the reasons why Jiangxi are exploding so badly.
Yes.
Yeah,
Taoists
who would have
could
thought? Who
control
would have
them.
thought a religiously led rebellion would have horrible consequences?
Which in this case, they take care of the people that can actually put these things to rest.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So they also make another point here that like some of them you can just put to rest.
Wait a minute. Wait, I just realized something. Does
What?
it mean that the leader of the Yellow Turban Rebellion this time he actually did have magic?
I actually made a point that while he probably wasn't a mage, he could have been a sleepwalker.
He could have been a sleepwalker. He could have been just a standard will worker where it's like he's not using magic.
I had to use that.
He's not using like the arcana or anything. He's just using other rituals to get what he wants done.
He could have like some supernatural abilities.
He could just make him some crazy man who lives out in the woods.
I like the idea. I like he has maybe not arcana, but like the ritual thing. I like that idea
Yeah.
more.
I mean,
because
he
it'd
did
be
say
more
he
believable.
got his like $3. He did say he got his 3 texts from some strange old man in a cave.
That's true. There was another old man he got all of his sex from. Chinese literature is basically like, so there's an old dude that like
There's
told
an old
me I'm
hermit,
special.
because asceticism is a very common element.
There's an-
Yoda. This is where Yoda comes from, everyone.
Also, to make a joke here, like again, it seems really
Yellow
strange
is
that
the
it's
sky that you will be the dream of victory for you. Fool he was, tricked him to death. I did.
it's very strange that all of these old Chinese stories have an old man getting a young man to come back to their house with them by promising them that they're special.
So yeah, the
I'm just
scavengers in the
saying.
battlefield. Basically, this is not. You don't have to. This is just a setting idea that they give you. Any
Yeah.
Geist, you're probably going to be attached to one of the armies of the warlords, and your main duty is after the battle, you're trying to basically prevent because there's so
the
many
zombie
deaths.
apocalypse. You're trying to prevent the zombie apocalypse.
You're trying to either prevent the zombie apocalypse or the spirit realm ripping open, because all these wandering ghosts are causing thinning of the that membrane between the spirit world and yours. Because there's just so much concentrated death there.
Yeah. It's also, again, I want to note, it's not a Geist, it's a Sin Eater. Geist is the ghost thing, the Sin Eater is the person.
Yep.
Just clarification here.
Yeah, I just kind of share them in a minute.
We just use Geist because it's just a quicker way to
It's
say
shorter,
it.
and yeah, you're basically a 2-in-1.
Yeah.
Also, for other supernatural beings, unsurprisingly, the vampires were in real good with the bureaucrats.
They were in real good
Yes.
with the bureaucrats, and basically the Dong did one good thing and basically put several
Burned
vampire
that
elders.
fucking nest to the ground, yeah.
Not only the nest, he actually got several elders too in his burn.
Yeah.
The werewolves are fucking yiffing in the mountains and killing each other still.
Yeah, basically they're like your barbarian weirdos, and they also hunt the ghosts.
Yeah.
And they fight the pure, so they fight their little. There's also the mage's power struggle.
Yeah, mages, of course, are doing mage things, which is just being dicks. Mages are fighting each other. The exarchs with the seers are going nuts. There's other.
The seers are not going angry because they were kind of influencing the bureaucrats.
Yeah, they'd entrenched themselves into the Han dynasty, and now they're like, oh fuck, that's gone. Oh shit. Oh fuck. There's the fact that everything is just like PTSD hell has caused a lot of failed awakenings, which have driven people crazy and turned them into banishers, which is basically crazy mages that want to destroy all magic.
Yep. And of course, hunters who would probably form from any number of the wandering soldiers, who are
soldiers and or farmers that are like
soldiers, farmers,
any unfortunate soul who had to live in this time.
Yeah.
And hey, they have Prometheans, and they do exactly what I predicted, which were golems and muses, and they're formed mainly to guard tombs or immortality experiments.
There's probably one sitting in the in Shin's lair to this day.
And then there's demons.
Demons are having a fun time.
Oh yeah, because
everything is falling apart.
Well, the way I'm envisioning it is, the Han may not have been a god machine experiment, but because of its sheer size and orderly bureaucracy, it's a very useful tool for the machine to use.
Yes.
And it's broken now, so
it's broken. So demons are like, this is the best time because there's so many people in need of.
And the god machine is busy trying to figure out which of these warlords to use.
Yeah.
I like the idea that the God Machine shows Kong Rong. It's like a guy with that name. Yeah, I think he's going places.
Yeah. The next thing with this is also, I love that they mentioned Prometheans, which is
yay. I love that.
They mentioned they're like terracotta soldiers,
and also the immortality experiments.
Of course.
Basically, so the No Nut November people created the ultimate thought. They were like, finally.
Yeah. Finally, my waifu shall come to laifu.
Oh.
So another thing is,
will never understand the Sigma male grind set. Then there's also mummies, of course, because mummies.
Yep. Not only Jiangxi found their way home because those processions were usually waylaid. Mainly
Yeah.
because the minders, the Taoist minders, would probably be killed for being Taoist.
Yeah.
And the bandits would be like, look at all these corpses, I can steal all their valuables.
And now they come to life and fucking eat them.
Well, some of the Jiangxi just collapsed because, only thing keeping them together is the ritual that, awakened and binded the spirit to the body. Others, on the other hand, were more aware and able, and they're now loose. That that little seal that controlled them, that's gone. And now they're running around. That's not good.
No, it is not.
That's really
It
not
is
good.
the opposite of good.
It'd be even worse if they disturb something else.
By the way, the first thing that the Jiangxi, that the bandits would usually get as a reward for doing this stupidity, yeah, the Jiangxi would eat them. It didn't take long for travelers, by the way, to realize, yeah, the walking corpses are terrible. And there's also rumors that there's an actual fucking zombie plague.
Yep. Now,
But
I want to
anyway,
know this is written for first edition Geist, so some of the terms aren't going to transfer over one
And
to
there's
one.
no shortage of sin eaters because, yeah.
Yeah, let's see. You've got drownings, deaths,
let's put it this way.
murders,
Let's put it this
random
way.
people dying
Even
because of
let's say
immortality potions.
let's say 0.00000001% of every people that die gets even a chance to become a Geist.
Well, how many
You
zeros did
times
you
that
use?
times. Let's say I'm gonna just do that math now.
Greg, how many
0.00.
zeros? I have a calculator. I can show it.
I think he did
I'm putting
4.
in 9 zeros and 9 zeros.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1 times 40 million.
4.0 to the 8 to e minus 5. Not cool with that. No clue what that means.
That I think your ratio is a bit off, so let me do.
Oh yeah, my bad. I did it the other way around.
Let's do 1 in. Let's do like 1 in 10,000 because I think that's a little more even. Yeah, there's like 4,000 of these bastards walking around, which is quite a lot.
For nigh unkillable zombie revenants.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason there's enough of them to form like actual orders and stuff during this period.
Yeah.
What? Just a second. I'm looking at the comments. First off, IC is saying that he thinks he thinks mage in this setting would be awesome.
It would be.
A new
It's
one,
fun.
Nicholas Liu says.
Would it be worth it for the Geist to start with?
Nicholas Liu says, thanks for the history, and he asks, would it be worth the Geists working with the Reapers at this point?
I honestly think that yes, you would have some Geists working with Reapers at this point.
I think they would, yeah.
There's just so many fucking dead people that, like, yes, it's horrible what they're doing.
The politicking does
with
sound
them.
fun. It's murder and intrigue, but if it had wizards, it'd be better. Yeah, you could totally do like a mage where you could do it. You could do a mage in Sima Yi's court, and it would work perfectly fine.
From Alchemist Sigma Male Grindset, create the one of the dreams and kill the abomination.
Create the one of the dreams and kill the yeah.
That's yeah. All, as we mentioned before, all alchemists in this setting are fucking Sigma males.
Yeah, either that or they're just insane and they want to live forever and they drink mercury. They're basically mad as a hatter before that term became a thing.
Yeah. So to make this a little bit different here is that I should note the Sin Eaters will basically, anytime there's a lot of death, you're just going to get more of them because there's more desperate people wanting to live that are willing to make the deal.
Especially since in this period of time, there's so much bad shit happening.
There's famine, there's plagues, there's
and some of
war
the most common
everywhere.
Ones are torn or stricken.
Yes, which are deprivation or death by violence. This doesn't transfer over to second edition. Second edition is more why you want to come back.
Also, this is just another thing, but let's not forget that there was one of the other reasons why the original Yellow Turbine Rebellion happened was all the natural disasters.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Famines. I thought there was a flood, wasn't there?
I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about the famines. I'm talking about all the flooding that happened.
Yeah, because there was
actually too much rain.
So I was right, Tech.
Because there was too much. I could
have sworn that the flooding came after the collapse of the Han.
Nope.
But
it happened at both. It happened both times.
Ooh.
Yeah.
But also part of it was that there were less people to actually man the waterworks. So
that's the big reason why it flooded during the Han's time. The first flood was just one of those 1
Too
in
much rain.
100 years that a rainfall this bad has happened.
And then everybody dies, and they can't maintain them, and it's like, oh, fuck.
Well, then the yellow turbines happen, and in the 21 years of trying to put them down, enough people fucking died that the waterworks, yeah.
Yeah. This is just coming out just before Changeling Second Edition is still in development. So Changelings can transfer over actually pretty well here.
And you could still fix Sin Eaters pretty easily.
Yeah, it's not that hard to do Sin Eaters. Sin Eaters are unironically one of the best things for crossover games because it's like everybody will deal with ghosts at some point. Everybody.
And in this setting especially.
Yeah.
So
Now,
Yao Guai, there's demons, minor deities, animal spirits.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah, you know all those Chinese mythology spirits? Yeah, take that and then actually make them spirits, which are not good. That's not good. They're hanging out because of all the death.
Yeah. There's a lot of actual spirits too, not just like, oh, weird cryptid thing that comes out of the woodwork.
Like embodiments of nature or ideology. That happens. Manifestations of violence and death.
Yeah. It's not good.
And there are true Fae as well.
Yes, the Fae, of course, are active everywhere all the time because, you know.
They probably fucking enjoyed the Han in its end.
Oh, they're loving this.
They love it. In its own words, the true Fae of ancient China were a capricious, hedonistic bunch who repeatedly took no small delight in the country's violent intrigues.
Certain lost scholars believe that they played an active role in the tribulations, alternatively extending or ending conflict as it suited their moods.
My guess, here's my thinking. You know all the dumb bullshit Lu Bu pulled?
Yeah.
A Fae did it.
Favoritism? Something like that?
Fae flicked
sure. Sure, we
got it. The girl, who's the girl? Fuck him.
The girl that he wanted to fuck? Yeah, that's a Fae. That's like a Fae.
Was a Fae playing around.
And that middling bureaucrat, he was actually he was one of the few Fae who likes to come out and pretend to be human.
No, he was a fetch, like a doppelganger.
He was a replacement, yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing to note with this is that the reason why we're giving this a lot more passive, like you're having supernatural stuff fucking run in history, is because this is already a time period that
Kingdom's already completely insane.
Yeah, it's already been fictionalized
to nuts level.
To nuts. It's the same reason why the King Arthur setting gets such a big pass from us. It's because
I guess it's fine.
It's fine. It's already a mythologicalized. It's already a myth-made time
also,
of
I'm
legend.
Going to be frank. The
weirdness.
writing in this is a lot more solid compared to the Diadachi one that we covered.
Yes.
Because while it does go into minutiae a little bit, it knows to keep the pacing.
It keeps the pacing. It doesn't stop. It gives you the history, and then it's like, all right,
and
now
then
we give the supernatural stuff.
But yeah, let's just say we have so much stuff about the fall of the Han. There's only one other time period in Chinese history that is more recorded than the fall of the Han. It was the rise of the Han.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which let me tell you is its own bag of nutcases, especially since the first Han Emperor is literally the biggest shitposter in all of Chinese history.
That's amazing.
Well, I mean, it was a massive improvement over Shi Huangdi.
It's not hard to do that.
Yeah, like that's not hard.
That's why. Like, literally any bumbo.
Also, technically, if you really want to get into it, he is technically the birth of Chinese nationalism. Before that, it was a lot more like how Europe used to be, kind of where there was
some asshole unified all this.
Yeah, it wasn't really. I mean, Qin united it, but there wasn't really even an idea of China at that point. I mean, there was the Yellow Emperor, but.
So, anyways, the Courts of Chaos, the Changeling of the Lost. So the way they do it isn't by season; they do it via direction, which makes a lot of sense.
Which is this
Very
is
Chinese.
the thing. Like one of the biggest complaints about Changeling 2E originally is that Changeling over time had acquired all of this different stuff for different courts. They also did give you ideas of how to make your own, but like people were like, "Well, why don't you just tell us what these new ones are too?" Like this one. So the big thing about this. This book is that it goes into directional courts, which was also covered in Kindred of the East to a degree, where the directions that are very important to that. It kind of comes right back. It's like they took out of that book, and then they actually added not just like pop culture Chinese stuff to it, but actual historical stuff.
Yep. In this case, they're bound by the concept of mandate of heaven. And
Yes.
in this time, basically among changelings, horrible times like this have to exist because it gives rise to legends, to the great heroes and villains of lore.
Mm-hmm.
It just has to happen. That's why assholes like Shi Huangdi were allowed to exist, and the shitposting First Han Emperor. They're needed.
They're
And
needed
the
because it
directional
also allows them to.
courts, they follow the winds of change mandated by mandate. They have their own philosophies on how to on what's right and how to act, but none of them are outside of heaven's control. They have a role. Ironically, this is closer to kind of beast logic, but it's actually not shit.
It's not shit because there's not some overwhelming existential force enforcing it. This is just what they believe.
Yep. They're tied to
Now-
they're tied to one of the 5 directions, which are north, south, east, west, and central.
Now, that being said, they are also tied to actual metaphysical things because they made a deal with the concept of North to borrow some of its power to hide from the Fae. Changelings like that.
Yep, and here are some of the means. Western corps are a call to action. The Eastern corps thrive in time of prosperity. Northern corps contemplate what it means to suffer, and Southern courts rail against fate. Basically, the Northern courts fall into fate. Southern ones don't. They fight fate.
Yeah.
And center courts
The
are reflection on the
Yeah.
opposing opposites.
basically
West thrives
action,
in war, East thrives in peace.
peace. Yeah, so basically war, peace, fate, lack of fate, and reflection on all of it.
Obedience and defiance, I would say, of fate.
Yeah.
And then there's the warring freeholds because, hey, if everyone's fighting, so are these guys.
Yeah, changelings are going to do it too, because courts are moving around. Like 3 distinct changeling movements were born, each with its own set, and believing it was backing the right person with the mandate. So the 7 Claws, the Still Pond, and the Heaven's People are
Based
the 3
on
groups.
the 3 ultimate winners of this kerfuffle.
Yes, the 7 Claws support the Shu, the Still Pond serve the Way, and the Heaven's People go to the Wu lands. So, many of these are gonna fucking die. Like, they mentioned that some of them are sacrifices.
Yep, basically this collapse destroyed the harmonious course by splitting their numbers.
Yes.
That did a lot of damage. The chaotic state of the land broke down the barriers, holding the hedge at bay, by the way. The sheer amount of death actually fucked things so hard, even Arcadia felt it.
Arcadia felt it, or there was probably
or maybe there's bored Fae. They're like, what'd be fun?
Let's have a prison break. Let's let a bunch of fucking this. It's already crazy down there. Let's make it crazier.
Well, I was thinking more like your traditional, good old fashioned English fox hunt. Only instead of foxes, it's prisoners.
It's prisoners. Yeah, like that's very Fae to do. So they're all trying to recruit new changelings. They're all trying to go through here,
and they're dying. They're dying like frogs in a fucking blender.
Yeah.
And they actually imply that some of those changelings might have actually be some of those famous figures of legend, like your wizard like those asshole wizards that hang out.
It's like the asshole wizards that keep killing people.
Or maybe that weird psychopathic freak Lu Bu.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of them, but a couple.
Not all
of them.
Are. Some of them might be. They also mentioned that it's possible that the changelings extended the conflict by accident.
Via just their existence, because they're so stubborn towards the people they basically
they're backing these
guys.
Also,
it's one of those things that it's like an election. Maybe at a certain point they were starting to choose what was the least worst option for China, and that was the best.
Well, it's also they believed in some way that the losers would be picked up by the court and taken back.
Probably that's also possibly part of it. Like, if we lose this, we're going back to Arcadia. Oh God, we don't want to go back to Arcadia.
And that might be why they were so stubborn.
Yeah. They also mentioned that it's a little bit different in how things are working with like the freeholds, because the freeholds have central meeting points within the hedge inside of China, and there's 3 separate ones of them, and there's ways to get to them.
Yep, and they have the medallions that you need to enter these little freeholds that are within the hedge.
Yep. They're doorways to destiny. They're constantly anywhere. So you might be going from one portal to another, and you might be, hey guys, like I'm gonna go to get like I'm gonna go to the local freehold that fuck with the goblin for a while. They are never seen from again because the portal of the exit is somewhere in Upper Mongolia, and now they're throat singing.
That sounds
They're-
about right.
You could, it's like you know how like they have to, you know, like we gotta go faster. We hear banjos. For Chinese people, it's, oh god, we hear the throat singing.
Or alternatively, they open a door and they accidentally pass Buddhism or something to like Central South Asia or something.
Or even worse, they
Southeast
end up
Asia.
in the crisis of the 3rd century.
Oh, that'd be
They
funny.
just go to Rome. It's like they
Just,
suddenly show
just
up in
envision this like
Oh yeah.
Chinese.
Also, not forget. Like, I guess if we're quote unquote trying to remember the times, I remember the Roman Empire existed in this time and was
yes.
doing its great nosedive into death.
So envision
this
this
was-
Chinese bureaucrat who is actually a changeling
It's
doing
funny
a door
because
of destiny just to, I don't know, throw some shade. Like they're from Wu, they
No,
want to
the
fuck
thing,
with
the
Shu.
thing I want to address was the thing I do want to address is ancient. Remember, at this time, ancient China, the Han had emissaries in Rome. They were technically like quote unquote embassies in China for the Romans at the time.
okay, to get things funnier, right? This is also the period of 3 kingdoms in Rome. You've got the 3 different empires. You've got the Zenobias, you've got Aurelius in the center part, and you got the Gallic Empire.
Yeah, but
How
envision.
much you
I just wanted to finish. So this fucking bureaucrat who is like, I'm gonna fuck with Shu. I'm from Wu. Teleports all the way to like the Gallic Empire. What? Or more funny, accidentally teleports to the Americas.
Oh my god!
Where is everything? When he just finds himself in
Imagine
a
ending up in
plane.
like the city of the sun in like
Mhm.
Central America from China, and you're like, oh fuck.
Oh, new sacrifice. Hey, new sacrifice.
That could actually
This
be a
is-
really funny ending to a campaign, though.
yeah, just rocks fall. Everybody goes to Mexico.
Rocks fall. Everyone goes to Tiwanaku.
No, better. Rocks fall. Everyone goes to Canada.
Oh, that's great. No. Rocks fall. Everyone goes to Baffin Island.
Everybody goes to Wrangel Island 3,000 years earlier.
You just see the mammoth.
You get to see the last inbred.
No, I got the
retard
best
mammoths.
thing. Rocks fall. Everyone goes to Ireland. This is the real story of why there are black
Oh
Irish.
my god, that would be so
That's-
much fun.
That's the real truth behind the black Irish.
You're the Black Irish.
Oh no. I got something even more giga-brained. Rocks fall. You accidentally create the Scorpion Dynasty because you went back in time in Egypt.
Oh wow. That conflicts with mummy lore, but that's still funny.
Or
Who cares? Anyway,
Rocks fall. You form the Hittites.
so they mentioned how you'd harvest glamour at this time, which
Glamour.
really this is just part of Changeling, so it doesn't really matter too much on that.
Glamour. That's not a good G.
Yeah,
It looks like clamor to me.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Changeling's font can be a little wonky sometimes.
So,
Threats
So
to the
yeah,
edge
the
of war.
mortals are struggling to eat. Changelings are fine.
Changelings are like, this is all emotion.
This
we
is great.
We live off that shit. So
And the
It's great.
northern courts are like basically are like Cartman after he kills Scott Teneman's parents. Yes, your tears are
delicious tears.
delicious.
yeah,
Because the northern courts are awful.
self-made lone wolf from Pagan Pilot. I guess yeah, you could say that. Anyway, back to the so threats to the edge of war is essentially the huntsmen are after you, which is a big part of the 2nd edition, is that they bring in the concept of the huntsman, which is basically special Fey agents that don't have basically any of the normal weaknesses of the Fey, who really want you dead and cannot die.
And they actually give you, by the way, for those curious, they do give you the different courts how they feed for glamour.
Yes.
Northerners feed on the suffering, literally, yes, your tears taste so good. Southern ones are like, yes, your desire to literally kill everyone and get change feels amazing. Western-facing ones just basically are war crazy.
Yep.
And the centered ones are like, just, I am the emotional rock.
I'm either the emotional rock or I'm emo as fuck.
And the
This is
Easterners can
all-
go fuck themselves.
They're literally like, yes, I love it when you murder an entire family for power. This is
I
amazing.
think the Easterners like thrive on the Ah, yes, so thank you for building reinforced farms. I could feel the prosperity flowing through my veins.
Yeah, they're just like they're on like an IV trip of Cao Cao.
Then he dies. And
Then he
then
dies.
Also,
I'm
I'm
like,
gonna also because I feel compelled. I'm gonna post the story of the great ship posting emperor in our Discord. So if you want it,
okay,
oh yeah,
we'll
by
get
the
to
way,
that.
can you link our Discord for our viewers, all
Yes.
2 of them?
Have we reached the cannibalism yet? We have passed the cannibalism at this point.
So there's the goddess of the Salt River, Odd Arms,
Which is-
and Kung Kung.
Who are 3 of the potential fae that you might encounter. The goddess of the Salt River is a true fae who appears as a beautiful woman from bodies of salt water to seduce men into her bed at the dark bottom. In reality, she's a parasite, taking the form of a swarm of flies large enough to blot out the sun. She can obliterate wet life with a glance, and she enjoys keeping her captives in underwater cages as they pickle, the better to improve the flavor, because she slowly drains your life force, like any other Chinese woman will.
Of course.
Of
There's
course.
Odd Arm, which is a weird hobgoblin who only has 1 arm, 3 eyes to follow them.
Yeah. He's just lonely.
He's my friend.
He wants friends, but to do that, he takes people in and he turns them into monsters.
By the way, Kung Kung is kind of similar to Gong Gong.
Yeah.
Oh, it literally is Gong Gong.
Yeah, it is.
The great destroying asshole dragon.
Yep.
So there's the Court of the Black Tortoise. That's the northern court, and
The life
actually
of suffering.
the name of the animal is actually relates to their direction too. By the way.
Yes, it does. They match that. All of them are matched.
Gives you the mantle, suffering. That's their big thing. Then there's the Vermilion Bird. That's your southern court.
Yep.
Their big thing is rebellion. Basically, fuck society.
Fuck you, won't do what you tell me. Fuck you, won't do what
And
you
you
tell
gain
me.
a dot of the Goblin Vow at level 2.
A Goblin Vow for rebellion, a Goblin Vow for suffering. Like, again, these are merits, so basically.
Yep. Then there's the Azure Serpent. That's your east.
That's the Eastern Dragon, the Blue Dragon.
They're the shittiest off right now.
They're kind of like, oh god.
Why can't people not starve?
Well, they're envy, too. So there's a lot of envy going around, honestly. I want to be king.
I wish we weren't starving and
yeah, I don't want to be starving. I want to be an emperor.
Or even just I want to have food.
Yeah, that guy has food and I don't, and I want that food.
And then there's the White Tiger. That's your western.
White Tiger,
court.
which is war, which is
And their big thing's honor, actually.
Yep.
Hey, look! It's the most Chinese grandmother of all time.
I know, she's perfect.
I love it.
Look at her.
Also, the giant fuck off axe.
I love it. These are all the different parts of it. You can tell.
I love it.
It's quite clever.
And last but not least, the Yellow Dragon. Their big thing is reflection. They muse on things.
Yep.
And there's the bunch of
contracts of the courts. Yep. This is just the mechanics section for the changelings. It's decent. It's not amazing.
Solid. It's not great, but it works for what you need.
It's like, okay, so here's another example of all that. Here's all the catches and all that, and yeah.
And then
enjoy.
When night falls, the monster comes.
The monsters come.
Literally,
this is
Phasmophobia.
This is Phasmophobia, except you're all saying Baba Booey.
Yeah, Phasmophobia if you were Baba Booey, or alternatively, Night of the Living Dead if you were the Ghostbusters.
Yeah, this is like Ghostbusters meets a Chinese action film meets
Night of the
Living Dead.
Or Dawn of the Dead. Don't worry, the drag racers are going to leave soon, viewers.
You say that, but I actually see the police chasing them right now.
Holy shit, really? Are we gonna get the sirens?
No, it's not. For some reason, the sirens aren't on, but the lights are flashing.
The police aren't prone to do. The police, well, they can turn off sirens now. It's pretty sweet.
Oh, that's actually nice.
It's it's really nice to just be able to. It's because it's late at night.
Stay tuned, viewers, as you get to watch a high-speed police chase on an audio-only show.
Okay,
that's pretty good.
Anyway, Ghostbusters meets Dawn of the Dead, which actually, now that I'm reading this, I thought that Changeling because you could do some really insane wuxia stuff with them.
Yeah, these guys are your wuxia men.
The
Geists have always been that.
Well, no, your
Because
Sin Eaters are more like, do you want to kick? Literally, I kick ass for the Lord. Like from
yes,
Brain Dead.
they're basically like talking about how they're banding together in what's known as bangho or bands.
Yep.
Obviously, because it's just like, so usually it would be just Taoist monks, mediums, exorcists, like just
They used to
the
do that, but
usual.
then they were killed.
But now the fucking three kingdoms have attacked, and are you a bad enough dude to fight demons in hell?
The army
And
of literal fucking Jiangxi.
living corpses. Yeah, like, are you a bad enough dude to fight armies of living corpses and also the Yama Kings?
Yeah, like you punch zombies by day and kick ghosts in the teeth in the underworld at night.
Like, this is rad as hell. Because
Both are
not on
great.
top because on top of it, right? So there's a bunch of new ghosts coming out. All of them are angry, which makes more Geists, which means more Sin Eaters. But also, a bunch of creatures are being unbound from the underworld because of all this death and coming into reality.
They literally can't fucking process the sheer amount.
Yes.
Even I just realized something. It's the celestial bureaucracy.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Except it's in the underworld.
Yeah, Sin Eaters have a little bit of Kindred of the East in them. In this setting, at least.
Yeah. Well, the underworld reflects what's in the overworld.
Yep,
And the
character
beliefs
creation, Ghosts in Three Kingdom era. Even illiterate peasants know at least a little bit about ghosts. Here's a Jiangxi rising from the
I
grave.
should also mention that they mentioned this sidebar here, dying for power. Which is the idea of how you can now chemically become basically, this is cultivation. If you want to do a cultivation game, just do this, because this is basically, you sit on a pill, you sit in your ass for 3 years, you eat a pill, and you achieve immortality.
Yeah. Most of the time you just fucking die, but
most of the time you're just gonna fucking die, but
sometimes you achieve immortality. Well, not really.
Sometimes you achieve great success, and now you can see ghosts and fight them.
It was
which
a mistake.
leads to the idea. Yeah, this was a mistake. Which does lead to the idea, though, of like a monastery of these dudes somewhere, and just doing the most crazy Shaolin shit of all time.
You say that, but I'm just envisioning, because there's a. For those of you who like alternate history, there's this great one that I remember reading a long time ago called Enter the 36 Chambers of the Wu-Tang Clan. Where,
oh my god,
so
right, that one.
You could have rapping fucking Taoist monks, kickboxing, fucking ghosts and zombies as they spit sick rhymes.
They can even be black, because hear me out here, right? So we've got
because they're mummies.
Not because they're mummies. Well, you can have mummies in the setting that are also,
because
but I mean,
they're preserved
because
bodies.
because they wandered into the hedge and they wandered out in China. Because of the crazy shit going on in the hedge, they walk into, like, you got Ubuntu in his village somewhere in the Congo's like, this is a weird rock. Touches it, he gets fucking teleported to China, and then he becomes a Sin Eater. Imagine that character.
Like some bored fare, like, hey, let's
fuck with people.
and there's the great shuffling. I'm envisioning like this really bored fade, like kind of envisioning like they're playing like I forget they're just playing like a game of Pai Sho or whatever, and they're like, this reminds me of something, and then he just creates all these gates, teleports like dozens of people randomly around the world just because fuck you.
Just because fuck you. I mean, you could even do this to have like your weird band of like Wulin monks that are all weird people, because they're all just from different parts of the world. you got like random Mesoamerican person, like, just assemble please, the teams with attitude.
Yeah, like, and it gets even better because I'm just envisioning like former blood sacrificer who's been adapted to the Chinese phoenix, the Feng Kuang.
Yeah, I mean, you've even got the directional course to play with for that,
and like perfect. Just like the Vermilion Bird, and he's like doing fucking crane kicks in the air with fireballs literally attached to his feet.
Yes.
Changeling is great because of that.
Yeah, you can do that for Changeling. You can also sort of do that for Geist as well.
Geist to a degree. If you want to do like that too, this setting is just great.
This is perfect for that. Like, if you want to play your weird, like, action movie.
Your bad 1970s kung fu movie.
That's the setting. I mean, I
It's
love
not
this setting.
entirely the purpose of that, because it's also supposed to be like this is serious. A lot
About
of people died.
serious, but
There's-
at the same time, it's like
Power corrupts absolutely. Trust no one. But at the same time, don't you want to like fucking rabbit punch someone with the force of like 1,000 explosions?
like this is like every shitty kung fu like wushu movie with like the awful CGI special effects
The real
and
question
people
is
yelling to charge their attacks. That's this setting.
the real question is which game, whatchamacallit, system, either Changeling or Geist would you recommend if you were doing, like, because it's given us the two big positions, a more politics heavy campaign or a bit more violent campaign. From it looks of it, it's kind of leaning towards Geist. It's much more combat heavy.
Geist is supposed to be the more combat heavy one.
It would be in this case because of the
I
fact
would
that you're
say
fighting
though,
zombies.
out of the two, I would go with Changeling over Geist, mainly because this is dealing with Geist 1.0, and
Yes,
while it's good, it's clunky.
Geist 1.0 is clunky. 2 is a lot smoother, but it doesn't quite 100% mesh with this one.
But you can
Yeah,
just kind of jigger it.
Yeah, I know. I know. I'm just saying,
I should also mention that like they go through the fact that like ancestor worship is immortal. They go through the basics of how these ghosts work to these people.
Yep. The ghost of these ancestors dwells in Diyu, the underworld. Those who committed wrong are being punished for their misdeeds. Generous offerings can reduce the amount of time that particular ancestor has to be punished, though.
Yes, they also go into the bureaucracy of the underworld, which I want to note.
Families who
It's
do
a
not
very
make sufficiently
Chinese
generous
thing.
offerings risk creating Egui or Hungry Ghost.
Yes, so a big factor of a Sin Eater in this setting will be to find old places where people can no longer appease ghosts, and just like throwing rice at them.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to fight. You can literally just be like, I got a bag of rice, and
I got a bag of rice. Who's hungry?
Oh God, Pagan! I'm looking back through the footage, and yeah, you're right. That dude with the axe and the wine belt looks like a fucking NPC from Dragon Quest.
Oh,
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah, there's some goofy shit in here.
Some of the art is great. Some of the art, it's a miss. This section has a lot of great art.
Yeah, I mean, I'd even say the Dragon Quest character, like, it's not really misses, in my opinion.
It's not really a miss because it's a representation of the core.
Well,
He's
also,
got the dragon belt on.
It's very clearly like a Dynasty Warrior shitpost kind of look.
Yeah. It's not meant to be serious. It's meant to be fantastical. It's Changeling.
And since people are commenting, I hope you don't mind if I
Nope, we can
zoom
point
into the
out.
chat.
Greg did
Self-made
post
lone wolf. Have we reached the cannibalism? No, we haven't. Well, we did. Bruce Lee Hunter versus the undead chick from Darkstalkers. Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah, you can do that.
Main event tonight on COD versus.
Versus.
This is just becoming Big Trouble. You could totally do a Big Trouble in Little China.
This is very much Big Trouble in Little China.
It really feels like too a lot with I don't know if this is stupid here, but it feels like with a lot of like the World of Darkness shit, you could go fuck the official lore. We're gonna turn this into an anime game.
I do. You can do that a lot.
Yeah, that's pretty much every tabletop.
It just feels like it's encouraged too because they're like
it's
shit.
Not
like,
necessarily
hey,
like we're taking it this way.
Look at these telekinetic powers you can apply just on regular humans. It's like what?
Yeah, you can. But
hey, you can do that.
Enough people died in this era. Enough people died in this era that you know that joke about if you move a chair in the past, everything changes. And no, if one more peasant in China dies, it's probably not gonna have any effect.
Yeah.
So
unless that peasant was the great ancestor to some legendary Chinese hero or something.
So what you're saying is, Greg, you're racist.
I'm just saying that
you want Chinese to die by the boatloads, is what you're saying.
What I'm just trying to say is technically you're supposed to take it a little more seriously than what we're musing. It's just because of the setting, because of the sheer amount of mythology in it, and because it's just the stuff you can do as either a changeling or a sin eater.
It's very fantastical.
You can totally do wuxia films, and it's perfectly fine for that.
It's perfectly fine for it because it's even like some of the themes, like Band of Brotherhood, Betray the World. Like it's meant to be somewhat over the top. Is the feeling I get out of this?
It can. Well, here's the thing. You could take it either way.
Yeah.
You could do it like the actual historical documents that Luo made.
Yeah, you could do the actual.
You could do Romance of the Three Kingdoms, where it's a lot goofier, but you know.
It's goofier, but it's the classic feel of the era, right?
So,
More
did anyone
accurately,
post
the
that Discord link? Someone should.
I posted it
Greg
several
did.
times.
He
I posted it
he
several
I
times.
it
I
got
just
deleted
did.
from my perspective.
No,
Message retracted.
I posted it above that. I deleted the ozone messages because I misunderstood with something someone
Oh.
posted.
So why is Seth's review of Cultivation Sim sounding culturally and mechanically accurate?
Because it is. It was actually made by Chinese people for one thing.
Yeah.
And
There's a reason Seth has to show he can barely understand all the Mandarin on the screen.
yeah, like it's very much in the flavor of that.
Also,
As much.
I see you're commenting, Nick. Couldn't you run Geist like a JoJo anime? Yeah, you can. Perfectly
Yes, you
fine.
can.
Your Geist
They're-
is your basic stand. It's your
Yeah.
stand, essentially.
Philip Peasant and Mao never exists. Maybe.
Possibly.
it's
Sorry I
probably a good
interrupted.
thing.
I just wanted to...
I can't take it seriously because more because of the players. Like games can be serious, silly, or mix. Yeah, this is very much a thing where it's like this setting is very much like choose which one you want to do and
Yeah.
stick with it.
Also,
You
in
have to
regards
be
to
upfront,
players,
yeah.
that's something that's more on who you play with. You kind of
Yeah.
that's something you really have to work out with the group, and like you gotta like if people want to play a serious game, you've actually kind of got to get together and say, look, we've had every other game's been goofy. Can we actually have a serious one this time?
Yeah, like here's the thing. You have to actually talk about it. Otherwise, let's say you want to go for a serious game. So you create like Zhang Jiefeng, like the sole survivor of an entire regiment of Shu troopers who died during this disastrous assault across a river, like to fight Wu, right? You could do that. Like he like survivor's guilt, last of a regiment, last of his fucking home fucking village probably that was sent out to war. And he has to deal with the hungry dead because, entire family lines died. And then you get like flying harmonious monkey lord Wu Zhong, and he's like a fucking shit talking monkey man who can
You've
kung
got
fu kick
you've
people.
got Dong Long, the very girthy.
Distant cousin of
The other
a
Dong.
certain other Dong.
Yeah,
Like
the long
you just
Dong.
gotta know. And
gotta
yeah,
know.
there's certain fan bases I don't.
In all fairness to everyone, there were some really dumb names back at this period. There was
Wang?
unironically a man called He-Man.
Oh, that's right. There was.
And also Sao P is, I mean, if you mispronounce it,
Cowpea.
it's Cow P.
There actually, jokes aside, there was someone named Wong Dong.
Yeah. That's not an unusual name in China.
Don't forget the other names most associated.
Dong Wang?
No, there was also Sum Tin Wang, Wei Tu Lo, Holy Fook, and Bing Ding Now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they
So,
Holy Fook is.
There are a bunch of dumb Chinese names.
So
I think Holy Fook is Korean, though.
it is.
Oh, you guys don't get it.
We get it.
No, we do get it, but I mean, there's a Vietnamese name that's very common. That's basically it sounds like it's like Phuc Boy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm serious. PHUC BUI.
Mhm.
Phuc Boy.
Anyway, as for like certain fan bases, I can understand that. There's a reason I kind of get turned off a lot from Werewolf the Apocalypse. Although a
Werewolf
lot
the
of it's
Apocalypse.
just due to the setting and tone. I just
Yeah.
I have to be in a specific mood for Captain Planet, and 9 times out of 10 I'm not, because it just usually feels really fucking preachy.
There's two ways to play it, and there's like three. The other way is just take it as a heavy metal album cover, and you're going to just rage against the machine. Essentially, like you and your hair metal band are out to go and kill Satan.
You say that, but on the other hand, I'm just envisioning the actual Rage Against the Machine, or should I say, Crawl Before the Corporate. Corporate.
At least
bucks.
Tom
Anyway.
Morello still can play like a really damn good guitar. Like.
So anyway, there's the Underworld, and what do Hungry Ghosts look like? They display their hunger. They usually have bloated bellies from kwashiorkor, which is a type of malnutrition. Thin necks. Their mouths might be wreathed in flames, rotting mouths and jaws. They also usually have long claws.
Yeah, to grasp you.
Like if you've ever seen
Prehensile
like a
tongue.
spitter from Left 4 Dead, they're like a spitter.
Yeah. They're like a spitter or a smoker.
Yep. Those who are sufficiently virtuous will get reincarnation or nirvana. Those who are less virtuous are condemned to suffer in one of the 18 hells. This is the bureaucracy of hell. There's underworld politics. It's bound by laws and accepted protocols. And the Wuchang Gui, the fucking Sin Eaters, they have the ability to
Yeah.
flaunt those.
Yes, because that's part of being a Sin Eater, is that you are kind of exempt from a lot of the rules that would govern the dead. Because you're dead, but not. You're a ghost, but you aren't.
You literally can just cut through the paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, if you abuse that too much,
The
yeah.
Yama Kings come after you.
And during the Han Dynasty, most underworld ministers understood that some Wuchang Gui were worthy of respect and did not question whenever they stepped in, usually.
Yeah.
Others
hey,
were like, no,
I
you gotta fill the paperwork. So just envision, like, this fucking devil, like, in a fucking scholar outfit, with a giant goddamn hammer threatening to crush you if you don't sign in triplicate the form to release your dead great-grandpa.
Yeah, and you're
That can
having to deal with
happen.
that. Yeah. When we say, well, that sounds like Dragon Ball, yeah, because it is like Dragon Ball.
Just imagine
Like-
King Yama, but like he has a shorter temper and he actually tries to murder you if you flaunt death too much.
Yep.
So kind of like what he actually was in the show, but a little less goofy.
Yeah. And also, they mentioned stuff like the Bon Festival.
Yep, the Ghost Festival. Also, Ghost Month. That's a big thing.
Yes.
Hell money.
Hell money. This is the thing. The modern Chinese government doesn't like this sort of stuff because it's superstitious and backwards and whatever else.
Yeah,
but it's still
the
practiced.
only time magic exists is when the government officially acknowledges it.
Yes.
Basically, that's why Ghostbusters was banned in China, because they don't want the Chinese peasants to think fucking ghosts are real.
Just to prove I'm not joking, like, there are actual laws in China in regards to if you have to get legal application to reincarnate as a
Yes,
Chinese
you do.
citizen.
Didn't
Yeah.
like the Chinese steal the Dalai Lama's soul and said, now we're gonna reincarnate
Well, they
him?
said they did.
That's the
That's
point.
what they
Well, they
said.
stole the Panchen Lama. They stole the Panchen Lama, who disappeared, who has been in protective custody for 20 years.
He's fucking dead, basically.
They can say
And he's not
they
dead,
can say all
and
they
he's
want.
not dead,
They just
and
want
he's not
control
dead.
over it all.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, the Dalai Lama has specifically said he will not reincarnate in China. So,
Though considering the Panchen Lama's gone, this might just be the end of Tibetan Buddhism. Who knows?
Or
well,
alternatively,
probably
they
not.
just make up a new Panchen Lama and just tell them to fuck off.
Probably they will.
They'll probably just go to Bhutan and say, yeah, this asshole was.
I would not be surprised if the Bhutanese government
The
says.
Thunder Dragon Imp, he will revive the Thunder Dragon Imp.
Also,
Or
remember, he
Sikkim.
said he won't reincarnate anywhere in or near China. So it's like,
Well, for the Dalai Lama, the Panchen... No, they just make up a Panchen Lama. Like, they just
Yeah,
say,
they'll
this
just make
small
up one.
fetus.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Because
Ghost Festival,
remember,
that's a big thing.
the Panchen Lama is supposed to be the one to figure out who was the Dalai Lama, and the Dalai Lama is supposed to figure out who's the Panchen Lama.
Well,
Well-
yeah, the Dalai Lama can just say, oh yeah, the Panchen Lama is, like, not in China at all.
Yeah,
He
that's all he has to say.
He is passed.
So anyway, with the Mandate of Heaven, secure all ghosts except for the most wicked that were condemned to the worst parts of DU were able to visit the mortal world.
During the festival,
So
yes.
just literal, you had ghosts just dancing with your relatives. It's fucking great. But because of some asshole named Dong, incompetent Han Kings, and a wizard who thought that just because he could do the hokey pokey and his finger fell off.
Yep.
Yeah,
Now,
that fell apart.
That fell apart because now these, when they come back during this time period, they're much more likely to just take
angry,
life and get angry.
Because
they might
so
not
many of their
have-
families are dead and they can't get
Yeah.
honored anymore.
Because you're also expected. There's 3 days that you're supposed to visit the graves, right? Well, they're dead, so they can't visit the graves, which means that
They have no one
These-
to talk to them anymore.
no one to talk
Or
to them or
feed
recognize them,
stuff.
so that they can become honored ancestors and move on. So
And on top of that, you have actual fucking the worst monsters that live in the underworld, because they're monsters that live in the underworld.
yes,
That'll
like the
bribe
Yama
their
Kings.
way out during these times. Like, they'll actually hitch a ride on the ancestors when they go, just to fuck with the mortal world.
Yep.
And then you have the worst of the worst, who sometimes break out of the deepest, darkest pits of the, hells, and
Yeah.
actually tries to take revenge.
Uh, Anyway, the next thing about this is they talk about some ideas for storytelling, which is a settled
Also-
band, which
yep.
is like you're working out of a village or a town or whatever.
You're
And
basically part of one of South. Like a good example would be you're part of South's like fortified farm program.
yeah, or one of his rectifiers.
Yep.
Something like that. So they mentioned that like probably not the best idea to use your superpowers in front of normal people.
And your main thing is just to, get assistant, negotiate between deceased ancestors and their descendants.
Negotiate with that, protect the village, things like that. Like this is your basic sort of like campaign that you'd have for any sort of. It reminds me a lot of the Neolithic mage stuff.
Yeah, you're mainly a part of the same group. Like it's not monster of the week. It's more you're part of the same setting. It's the same area.
Yeah. The next one is nomadic ones, which is basically it's time to get put on the supernatural hat and start walking around and going around and
Well, also there's other things. They even tell you how you can build up, like because you're doing better at managing the dead. Occasionally, a power-hungry douchebag, like let's say like Sao actually sees you do a ritual where you send off an ancestor who has no one left.
yeah.
Because you managed to basically do in triplicate the forms to get the Yama Kings to finally let him pass on because there's literally no one to honor him.
Mm-hmm.
And Sao sees this and is like, wow, I kind of need you because there's like some angry dead in some of the villages I've conquered that have caused trouble.
It's like, no problem, fam. Pay me and we'll do it. And you know,
that could be something you could do. Like you work for one of the warlords. I'm just using Sao, so it could be any asshole, really.
yeah, it could be any of the warlords. Which is almost everybody in China at this point, but you know.
And you can also become an actual power. You can actually kind of establish your own little power base.
Yep.
I don't think there's no way you're probably becoming emperor of China, but
it'd be funny.
Useful to them. That could be really funny. You actually out Sima Yi.
Mm-hmm.
Managed to take over. But and then, as you mentioned, nomadic exorcist, which is where you're going to the shitholes to fix problems that have gotten really bad.
Have fun.
Also, like for example, following armies, like
You'll like some of the more mundane shit is you'll kill bandits that are just causing havoc.
or you might run into another group of sin eaters who are exploiting the chaos. So you then have nasty magical death magic kung fu battles with them.
Yep.
Oh, Pagan's wondering what exactly the spirit heaven looks like for the Chinese in this.
Nobody fucking knows.
They believe that. Well, that's the thing. That hell's sole purpose is to just basically they serve their punishment before they can pass on to their reward, which is to be traditionally reincarnated.
Yeah, again, for the Chinese, you either reincarnate or you're like one of those
become
weird
one of the honored ancestor
sort of
spirits.
gods. Or you're like one of those kind of gods. Like not officially gods because we don't have gods, but we do kind of have gods, but we don't.
Like if you serve your 99 years of punishment in the Yama Kings because you're not virtuous enough to make it there, you become one of the honored ancestors at the shrine, and you basically no one knows what happens to you, but you can visit them.
Maybe nobody knows.
Or you're Guan Yu and you're fucking deified.
You're deified, so you now have like an actual presence in the spirit world. And is it you or is it some thing that has all of your memory from osmosis? Like nobody knows. And honestly,
though at a certain point, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter at that point.
It really just depends on what village you go to. They could believe you recycled and reincarnated.
They also mentioned stuff that you even in this era, sin eaters aren't common.
Oh yeah,
and it's
even
a
with
big
all the death.
fucking country.
Even with the death.
Even with all that death, like the thing is, all that death has created more than normal, but it's still not common. It's only like a few thousand at most.
So what you're saying is Chinese people don't have souls.
No, that would be Old World of Darkness.
Yeah.
Unironically, not that they don't have souls, but their souls are different. This is the thing. In Old World of Darkness, Africans, Europeans, and the Chinese all have very different souls.
And different heavens and hells.
And different afterlives, different vampires. It was weird.
So the Boondocks joke of White Heaven actually does exist in Old World.
Yeah, it does.
So if
I
Uncle
get to go
Ruckus
to-
believes hard enough, he can make it to White Heaven.
You can hang out with Ronnie Reagan himself.
No, Ronald Reagan's in hell for the Iran-Contra.
Oh no.
Actually, no, it's like the Emperor Mateus from Final Fantasy II. He's half in heaven, half in hell. Two different halves of Reagan.
Oh my god, can you imagine? Like, we've got like the really retarded Reagan up in heaven, dumb to know that the fire and brimstone Reagan down in hell.
It like that could be funny.
I'm just remembering. I'm just thinking the Reagan from Uncle Ruckus's hallucination.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's probably just a spirit disguised as Reagan fucking with him.
White Heaven.
Yeah.
That's for all the good
Yeah.
white people out there.
But
So
yeah,
anyway,
they mentioned
you're not really tied to a lot of people. Your big thing is you're kind of like Kenshiro from Fist of the North Star. You wander the earth, just punching problems away.
you're punching zombies, basically.
And that's a
Which-
big one you can do, like a literal goddamn zombie apocalypse. That can actually happen in this setting, unironically.
Yeah, and you're fighting it, and it's so chaotic that nobody would notice it.
Because it's like in one of the crappier warlord parts, or like in western China, or like in the mountainous provinces of Shu, or just where so many people have died. Like,
The living envy the dead, basically. Uncle Ruckus is a hunter. I don't want to even go there. IC in chat says, Uncle Ruckus would probably be a member of the Long Night. I think either that or like Task Force Valkyrie. I don't fucking know. I haven't seen the Boondocks. I just know the memes.
and also as you get more badass, other Sin Eaters might beg for your help
Yeah.
in the Nomad version, and you might actually get absorbed into mortal affairs somewhat often at
Yeah.
times. But the
Because-
whole point is you're just kind of out of like nowhere. You're kind of more hanging out in the hells. Nomadic is more you hang out in the hells more often, and you're just kind of
Yeah.
wandering.
You're dealing with a lot more bureaucracy. Like, you might have a Yama King you work with in this era.
Look, I'm just saying there's like 200,000 dead guys wandering around the province, and I need to get them back here. No, seriously, they need to take their fucking punishment. Like, out of those 200,000, only like 100, only like 20,000 are any good.
Now, that being said, that might be a bit different than how New Geist handles it, where like the Kerberoy are unironically, you do not want to help them. They're inhuman monstrosities. But you could easily fluff it as like these are the Kerberoy of the time, and they adapt to the culture that's around them, and sometimes they're worse, sometimes they're better, and this is one of their better time periods and areas. So the underworld, where they're structured.
Or you can just kind of ignore it and just.
Or you can just kind of ignore it and run it with how they put it here, which is just totally fine. I would unironically not mind if you did that.
It's kind of like
'cause
how
if
it's kind of like my idea on how the Exarchs are just like for the most part they're either completely dead, locked forever, screaming in agony, or you just hear their death wails.
Yeah.
Like it
What,
could be
what
either
you think
one.
is them talking to you is their eternal screams as they are torn apart in the abyss.
Endlessly, either at a half-dead state or completely dead, and it's just their screams.
It's just the death throes echoing through
Or
eternity.
alternatively, there's like some that are still talking because they're the ones farthest away, and they're like,
And they're trying to drag more people down with them.
they either drag more people down, they're like, hey, don't do this, or hey, totally do this, or hey, I can give you power, but in reality, I want to replace you.
Yeah, I want to put you where I am. I want to go back to the real world.
You can do either or, all of that.
Yeah,
like all
you can
those
do
versions
all.
work.
So if we hit the next page, they talk about organizations and tiers because we're running on like 3 hours here.
Oh god,
Um,
it's just
Like
because the
last time.
setting's good.
Yes.
It's not like when I was screaming last week.
yeah.
But that's because WizKid sucks.
Yeah. So they mention how these transportation and communication work. That there's not a lot of tier 3, which is like a very, very large group for these. You're most probably going to get maybe 20 Sin Eaters that are working across a province.
Yep. Because
Usually if
there's
you have an
just not a ton.
organization. Or like a monastery somewhere. Like that they'll all go to and, light incense, pray, all the
And
fun
any
monk stuff.
conspiracies via hunters, they're an esoteric branch of Taoism or Buddhism.
They're not very common. Like they're possibly mixed up with normal religious secret societies.
Yep. And if you somehow pull off a level 3 conspiracy, you might accidentally become Emperor of China.
You are definitely a player at that point in the battle for China.
You might accidentally become the Chinese Emperor.
Yeah, or be able to decide who
or the
becomes
guy
the
behind
Chinese
the
emperor.
throne, and you're like
Yes.
part of the new bureaucracy.
Yeah, they also talk about mediums here.
Yep, they're an important part
Basic
of
stuff.
Chinese folk culture. They are born with the ability to speak to ghosts. Most mediums are counselors who mediate for a fee between the living and their ancestors. So this is another way to placate angry ancestors and obtain advice. So you don't
Yeah.
have to be a sinner. You can actually just be a medium.
Yeah. If you wanted to do that, you could do that. They go then in for revised rules. Basically, the industrial key is a little bit different in this time
Yep,
period.
because
I can't remember if
crossbow is
that's
the height of technology here.
I can't remember if this is
The technology key is kind of
in
pointless.
second edition.
Yep.
Yeah, like
There's
they
windmills
mentioned that
and water mills and there's
they
wheelbarrows
mentioned
and
that
stuff.
like all uses of it are automatically better. So like you can just manipulate objects to send them flying around like you're a poltergeist.
Also,
Which is cool.
ceremonies described using radio, telephones, and mechanical and electronic device. They don't do that. They use compasses and mirrors.
Or like maps and
And
flutes
flats.
and things like
Yeah.
that.
Maps and flutes. Wow, I said flats instead of flutes. Wow.
Wow. Finally, regaining plasm in the underworld typically involves the character devouring offerings of food made to the dead or acquiring hell money and other paper offerings.
I'm just envisioning some douchebag band of sin eaters just like they're like this village is worshiping their ancestors, right? And they're setting up a nice meal because they're one of those ones that actually have like the fortified farm area, and you just kick down the door with your sin eater buddies and just steal all the food and eat it.
Wow, how gay.
Also,
awful. I
I like
love
the
it.
next bit for the ghost sword because it's literally a magical like I shoot a laser beam from my sword.
You literally have a magic sword that shoots lasers.
Yes, admittedly, it's either made out of wood, or like coins.
It's
It
funny.
really can't be used. Mind you, it's super damaging against a ghost.
Yeah, it hurts a lot.
But it's helpless against anything else.
So here's some inspirational works they used. Water Margin, also known as the
Never read
Outlaw
it.
of the Marsh.
Never heard of
It takes place in an era of large bandit gangs and open rebellion that basically inspired the nomadic band of Wu Jiangyi idea. There's celebrated cases of Judge D. It's the first series of many novels by Van Gulik featuring Judge D. It's based on Judge D and his adventures in a series of 18th century Chinese novels. And there's a bunch of ghosts and shit in it.
Originally, but he removed most of them.
Oh. And then there's also some movies, a Chinese
Ghost Story 1 and 2, Green Snake, The Sorcerer and the White Snake. I'm actually going to look that one up because that one sounds familiar.
And hey, we're actually at the end finally. Just shy of 3 hours, but this was one of the girthier
Also
ones.
known as Sorcerer and the White Snake, also known as it's got Jet Li in it. That's why.
Yeah, it's a Jet Li movie. This one.
It was in 3D. It was filmed in 3D. There's it's very magically. It's a lot of folklore, and I think it was pretty popular.
So, now this is a Sin Eater moment, yeah. Fae and mythology are straight up based. No Cal art style here, and how popular. Sad to how popular, yeah.
Yeah, actually, all of these movies are by I think most of them are by this guy called 3 of them are from this guy called Ching Su Tang, which includes titles such as Fight in Love with a Terracotta Warrior. Ooh. Oh,
what? You haven't explained.
this is okay. This is literally a
pro what? You cut.
A Promethean plot. Hold on, I'm putting this in here. The plot of this movie is that there was a pair of lovers in with like the first emperor. The girl finds she's got the elixir of immortality, gives it to the guy, who then ends up being sentenced to death by being encased alive as a terracotta warrior. and then he comes back to life in the 30s when like the reincarnation of the girl stumbles upon the tomb, which sounds like a Promethean plot.
Yeah, I could see it.
And yeah, his last movie was The Sorcerer and the White Snake. So
all in all,
sounds fun.
It's not as many novels, but I will say that this was an amazing actual booklet.
Yes.
It's girthy, but without overstaying its welcome. It explains everything very clearly, but without dragging on. And the adventure hooks, they give you a few ideas, like how to even take the most boringest parts of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms and turning it into something. Turning chicken shit into chicken salad.
You know what's even better about it? It's less than 30 pages.
Yeah.
We went for 3 hours.
I mean, a lot of that's Chinese history in general, but
yeah,
because
even
we had
when
to
we talk
explain
about
the Romance of the Three Kingdoms to.
Yeah, even when you're doing about that, like you don't need to know all the details of the Three Kingdoms in order to enjoy this. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It gives you exactly what you need to run a game in this setting if you have no idea about what's going on.
Gives you great ideas on how to culturally, base your changelings and geists. And
yeah,
if with a little bit of ingenuity and creativity, you can take it as a serious anti-war drama. That's an actual easy one to do.
Yep.
You could do
completely... war is so terrible. Yeah.
You could do war bad. You could also do I hit you with my Kung Fu Fireball as I just fly 1,000 feet in the air to kick you even harder.
Also, you can do it as a war movie where you're leading troops into battle to restore China or whatever. You can do Dynasty
That could even
Warriors.
Be the first session. Like you lead an army into a battle and you just all fucking die horribly.
You all fucking die horribly, yeah.
And that's when you become Sin Eaters.
You could easily do that.
Like, I'm sorry, you just died horribly.
You're all peasant conscripts and you're promised glory in the battle, and then you all fucking die horrifically. and
any survivors are killed by like their leader as like a paranoid measure or something, or like a punishment for failure.
More like you're all left for dead on the battlefield and all the corpses start waking up.
Yeah, so even if you make it through the battle.
That's the start of the campaign. Is congratulations, you're the ones that came back. So do these other ones, and they don't seem to have come back right because they're rotting already. And it's like, welcome to Zombies Apocalypse Chinese edition.
And that's another thing. There's a flexibility to it, and all of the hooks they give you aren't terrible because there's not many, and B, it just gives you ideas. It's not like the Alexander one where it's like, here are the things that you need to do. Here is the spoilers.
They all pepper it in throughout the section. They don't just put a big list of ideas at the end, which is the only real problem with Sundered World, honestly. Is that there's a bunch of stuff at the end that's like,
it's also the writing is very clunky and mechanical and kind of dull.
Yeah. Like Sundered World has a great fucking setting, though.
Yeah, it's just it's disappointing compared to what's in between it.
Yeah.
As I said, this is an amazing book.
Amazing in between. Again, if you had followed this up, like if we had gone from Sundered World to this, what would your opinion have been of this book? Like,
amazing.
Yeah.
As it stands, well, I'm changing it down to good, but that's only because I was so disappointed by Sundered World.
Yeah,
well,
Sundered
World. It's easy to say this book is good because it didn't have either fetish shit, weird political rants, or any of that. It's just like, here's a cool setting you can have fun in, and that's not really hard to fuck up, is it?
It isn't, but people keep doing it, and I don't know why.
And it's also that they don't pick a side either in this. They're not like, yeah, Cao Cao's the bad guy. They go like, no, Cao Cao might not be the bad guy, but he definitely did some bad things.
He's listed as the bad guy narratively, but no one's a hero in this. No one's a true villain. It's really up to your interpretation.
Yeah.
Because Liu Bei can be considered the asshole. So's that Sun guy. You can make him the asshole.
Yeah. That's the guy, his brother is the one that they mentioned, Sun Quan. His brother is the one that got trolled to death by a Chinese immortal.
Yeah. That's the beautiful thing. It gives you a decent overview, and while it does, and it even gives you like what the kingdoms are like. It tells you Shu's tiny but well protected, and it has pretty decent farmlands. It tells you Wei, it has bandit problems and northerners issues, but it's also the strongest easily. And then it tells
Yeah.
you Wu is kind of a nightmare, but it has the best navy, and it has probably some of the better learning besides Wei.
Yeah.
And that's great.
They
It's this is an amazing section of what's currently a good book. If more are like this, then I'll bring it back up to
the
amazing.
next one is very much like this. The next one, if you'll scroll down, the art will kind of give away where we're going.
And just for our viewers, let me go back and show you. This should give you an idea pretty easily.
I love the guy. If you take a look at the far right, this is just
Ah! Ah!
This section has some of the worst art in the book.
Ah! Also, these very badly photoshopped in
Very bad
wolf dogs.
Photoshop.
Was this drawn by a middle schooler?
Also, grandma with a spear, pretty kino.
Pretty. She's actually clutching the spear pretty decently. Just like she's got some control of
It's
that.
grandma with a spear. I'm sorry.
And then they got the tattoo that's on the spear.
Then they have the man who served 18 years in prison for murdering
I'm gonna be honest,
a teenager at the age of 17.
I'm gonna be honest. This art wouldn't be so bad if it clearly wasn't drawn where it's 4 different images that have just been layered on top of a background.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna end by zooming in on Screaming Man because I think it's perfect.
That's our thumbnail right there.
That's the thumbnail for the
That's the thumbnail for the start of the next.
I don't have
no. Scream Man, the guy in the right corner.
Yeah, the right corner.
Do you see him?
The man with a bear hat.
Yeah, I'm zooming in on him right here. Ah!
Yeah. That guy.
Up next in Dark Ages is the Wolf and the Raven.
Viking werewolf.
Viking werewolf and Geist.
And Geist again.
Yeah, back to back. The next one's this one's a little bit less, I'd say, as narrative as the other one, but they do reference some very good things right off the bat.
Well,
and
it's
more of
the
a
Viking
classic.
Age. You can do some crazy shit with it.
Yeah, they do go into a lot of the world of the Vikings, which I do quite like that they mention everywhere they went, usually.
Oh, so before we head off, one more question from our viewer, from Pagan Pilot. So when are you guys covering whatever book with the Chechnya controversy?
Never.
Probably never. That's like 5th edition Vampire. Fuck that.
That's 5th edition. It's basically a total fluff bit where like there's
well, not just fluff wise, but like in general 5th edition. I can just tell you right now, personally, I consider 5th edition Vampire, in terms of fluff wise and mechanics, not quite garbage, not like trash fire, not like dumpster fire, but like
if it wasn't called 5th edition. If it wasn't called 5th edition, you'd probably like it a lot more.
Barely playable.
Also, what else?
Because fluff-wise, it's terrible, and mechanics-wise, you're just obsessed with hunger, and that's just such a bad style of play. It's so
it's probably
annoying.
It's probably one of, hilariously for us, it might be one of the things that'll actually get us kicked off the platform.
Oh yeah,
it really
because
fucking
it's
riles people's jimmies. It really riles people's jimmies.
It rustled the jimmies of a lot of people for a lot of very, very good reasons.
Because it's just like, you know how I complained a little bit about in Sundered World how the mages were behind everything, or at least the seers were?
Not
Vampires are behind
the strongest is the one you're thinking of.
To the strongest is...
And whatever this is, it's vampires are behind the Islamic genocide of the gays.
Yeah, To the Strongest got under my skin because it did a lot of, and the mages were behind this thing all along. That's obnoxious. That's obnoxious with a massive side helping of overly political. And also
with the side helping of it's fucking happening right now.
Yeah, this isn't like
let's put it this way: it'd be like if someone tried to say the Geists are behind in what's happening in that certain northern province of China right now.
Yeah,
it'd be like saying that the evacuation from Afghanistan is the side effect of the God Machine's greatest plan yet. It's fucking terrible. Don't ever do that.
It's
Don't
like making
ever
him.
do
It's like
that.
making him. It's like making Himmler an anti-tribute Tremere.
And they did that in Old World.
They did that, and it was awful. Like the Berlin, we will cover Berlin by night at some point.
Well,
We
you don't like
have
the
to.
Nazi wizards?
I'd have to be dead fucking drunk or in the fucking hole in the ground before I read that one with you.
No, like the reason why is because it's such a ridiculous.
It's fucking dumb.
Insulting.
Yeah, it
like
is.
remember me
You know,
screaming at Operation Klondike? Yeah, I'll be screaming quite a bit when we.
Hey
Never.
Adam, can I just suggest that maybe for the next episode we take a breather and we actually do something fun?
Well, this was good.
This was fun.
I know fun, but like just de-stress even further.
Dinosaurs and Cadillacs?
No. I think it's time. I think it's time that to steal a line from another franchise to test our might.
We're doing the Mortal Kombat one?
No, I said it's from what?
Just say it for fuck's sake. It's
Straight
too
fucking
late.
fighter.
Of course!
Street Fighter.
The Street Fighter book.
Yeah, that's
Oh
it.
boy, I
We
can make my
promised
own
it a while
DC.
ago. We promised it a few months ago.
We're recording
We
that
did.
one, so that'll take a while to show
Yeah.
up, but don't worry, guys. It'll come
We
out.
will do Street Fighter.
Well, no. If you remember, Greg, we all agreed we were going to be doing Leviathan next week.
God no.
Yes.
No, we're not doing any fan games. Just flat out no.
Like, to give you an idea, the only one that I'd even consider doing is Genius the Transgression, and that's still a no thank you.
It's like it's an idea, but it's like nah.
I'd rather not. Anyway,
Yeah.
It's like 3 hours, so let's end it here. Have a great
Bye.
night, everyone.
Have a great night. We'll be back next week. We're not really quite sure what we'll do. Maybe we'll do the new.
I'll probably upload because I do have a video that I've been just slow about editing. I'll upload that instead because I want to record that week Street Fighter, or at least part of it.
Yeah. And otherwise, like again, take care, guys. I really enjoy rambling about lore with all of you.
Also, do not eat 20 to 30,000 human beings and call it a decisive strategic victory.
Even if it is, don't do it.
See ya.
Bye.